The story begins with just another regular day, as a boy named Lee is walking down the street. He headed out to the supermarket to grab some stuff he needed. Nothing out of the ordinary. Everything was chill, and then out of nowhere, portals just pop up and monsters start coming through non-stop. The goblins just jumped right in and started taking out everyone in the supermarket. He didn't hold back on anyone. Luckily, Lee spots something that could help. He grabs a machete and gets ready to protect himself. He pulled it off because he'd been through stuff like this before. He wipes out a couple goblins without breaking a sweat. He rounds up the scared survivors, making sure everyone's together. He grabs anything nearby that could work as a weapon and hands it out. He steps up and pushes everyone to keep going, ready to face whatever comes next. He kept fighting off the goblins that wouldn't stop showing up. Things start off smooth. After a while, everyone just starts running out of energy. Goblins just keep coming non-stop. Pretty soon, the military pulls up. They came through strapped, ready to go. Lee jumps in and takes care of the last few monsters, making sure none are left standing. Right then, a pop-up shows up in front of him, letting him know the game's about to restart. Lee's trying to figure out what's going on, still piecing it all together. The portal lights up again. A massive orc just walks out. Lee and the soldiers start shooting, but none of their shots do anything. Guns don't do anything to the orc. One of the guys who was hiding just a second ago suddenly steps up and drops the orc with one clean hit from his axe. He says the legs are where you gotta aim if you want to win. Lee has no clue what's going on right now. He used to freeze up just seeing one goblin. Out of nowhere, he just got way stronger and started moving with a whole new confidence. Soon, everyone else who made it through started showing up too. Nothing really changed for him. He looked the same as before. They started getting good at taking down monsters, almost like pros. For some reason, all the weird stuff going on hits everyone else, but it leaves him completely untouched. Out of nowhere, he gets a pop-up from the system that finally makes sense of it all. Something went wrong with the system, so his reset didn't work. Everyone else had already come back from the future. They're locked in on all the monsters, like they know exactly what these things are about and how they act. He's been fighting for years. Right then, Lee gets hit with the fact that he's totally done for. He barely has time to realize what's happening. Another ping shows up on his screen. The system just dropped a rare special skill on him as a way to make up for what happened. He's got Butterfly Effect level 1 since he hasn't gone back in time yet. Now every time he does something that messes with the future, he racks up bonus points. Lee looks at the screen, taking it all in, finally getting what's going on. Even the tiniest move can end up causing some wild stuff way far off. That's what the butterfly effect is all about. Even more orcs started coming out of the rift. The players charge ahead, ready to throw down. Lee kept his eyes on the fight, pulling the trigger as he sized up what was going on around him. Now that he's got this new player status, he can check out every monster's name and level right above their heads. His shots barely do anything, just weak burn marks on the orc's tough skin, not even close to breaking through. Since they already know where to hit, close-range weapons just get the job done way better. He catches on quick and puts the gun back, grabbing an axe instead. He gets a bonus point from the system. His new decisions start changing how things play out later on. Whenever an orc goes full send, he chucks the axe right at its knee and he wraps it up with a smooth hit. Suddenly, another point pops up, sitting there just watching, and starts talking about how back in the day he didn't use an axe. He actually went with a chainsaw instead. Lee just grins, realizing every decision he makes basically sets up a whole new path ahead. Lets him know that he once took out 3 orcs just using thinner. Lee remembers it's a chemical that can catch fire, so he decides to give it a shot. Things start spiraling all over again because of the butterfly effect. He picked up some extra points. He dumps thinner all over the orcs. He lights them up and just stands there, watching as the fire takes over. He gets a bunch of bonus points from the system. He starts to feel more sure of himself. Out of nowhere, a notification pops up saying he just scored a rookie achievement for being brave. He unlocked a new skill called Armor. A solid green glow locked in around his body. Everyone around him just froze, not expecting that at all. Mutters under his breath, clearly annoyed, while another player grumbles about how Lee somehow always ends up with this ability. Lee figures out this is the same skill he had earlier, since nothing new or wild happened with the butterfly effect. The rift kicks back in, rumbling through the room. Everyone looks over, getting ready for whatever's about to happen. Lee steps up to the rift, and out of nowhere, a system window pops up right in front of him. They called it the Goblin and Orc Dungeon, and slapped a D- difficulty on it. He checks out the screen and it hits him. This game looks like it's built to take down everyone. Monsters hang out inside each dungeon, and after a while they just start swarming out through these gates. The only way to stop them from coming out is to shut the gate. He looks over at the players and tells them to speed things up and finish the dungeon fast. He remembers that playing on harder levels changes is what you earn and how your skills get ranked, but right now, he's not chasing gear or treasure. He's ready to see what his new armor skill can do, especially with those extra stats he picked up from the butterfly effect. He's got 15 bonus points to spend, so he dumps them all into strength and watches his stat go from 1 straight up to 16. He knows he's handled goblins and orcs before, so he steps through the gate without hesitating. The players head out and keeps right on their heels. He started thinking maybe Lee had already owned this place in some past life. A goblin jumps out of the ship. Shadows moved in and sank their teeth into Lee's arm. His armor kicked in right away and stopped the hit. He goes in and smashes the goblin's head with his weapon. He grabs something with one hand and just like that, scores another bonus point. Everyone just watches, stunned, as his power levels up insanely fast in just a few hours. One of the girls watching just shakes her head, saying there's no way anyone could pull that off. Not really talking to anyone, kind of grumbles about how Lee's insane armor is probably the real reason he used to run the scene as Korea's top player. Lee just brushes off what he says, not really taking it seriously. Starts to get jealous. He picks up a chainsaw and just goes for it. The sword just bounces off the armor since it's glowing and nothing gets through. Lee gives a cold, almost fake smile. He smashes the chainsaw, then grabs by the neck. Freezes up, barely able to breathe, totally caught off guard. Lee remembers what really goes down on the battlefield. Whenever someone gets greedy out there, it always ends badly. He catches on that these really believed they could just take back what used to be his. He locks eyes on the others and lets them know they should keep their distance. He grabs and snaps his neck, then just lets him drop to the ground. Things go really quiet for a moment. Lee thinks about how the rules everyone used to follow just don't count anymore. The game kicked off and showing mercy just made you look soft. He looks straight at the players who are all shaking and basically lets them know it's time to bounce if they want to make it out alive. Lee stares its body on the ground and it really hits him. This game isn't messing around, it's straight up brutal. An inventory screen pops up over his body, showing everyone what gear he had. He thinks about how easy it is to grab and just takes the Goblin Champion's necklace. He notices the place isn't his anymore, it's got a new owner now. The system hooks him up with some extra points since he just switched up what was supposed to happen. Wearing that necklace, he suddenly got way stronger and faster, basically like he'd leveled up 2 times in one go. Right now, it's actually coming in clutch, even if it might not be worth much later, when another player starts roasting how it looks. Lee just lets the comment slide and keeps doing his thing. He grabs the busted chainsaw and goes after the last few goblins, ready to finish things off. No matter how tiny the boost seems, every little bit of power really matters. Not long after, his screen lights up with a message saying every monster's down, and the whole dungeon's about to crash in 3 minutes. He remembers that the gate doesn't shut until every single monster inside is taken out. People who don't get out in time just disappear along with everything else, so that's why the countdown is so quick. By the gate, he sees the same kid from before, the one who was tearing up with his dad. Lee wonders if the kid really wants to risk it all right here, but the boy isn't backing down. He's sticking with him no matter what. Lee tells him to get out, but the kid just keeps asking. Lee's patience runs out, so he snaps at him again. He dumps all 9 of his bonus points into strength, bumping it up to 25. He was 28 and still had that necklace on. Then the guy dropped some wild news. He said they'd actually gone back 10 years in time. He thinks that even after 10 years, nothing in his life is really going to be different. He really just wanted to be a hero, even if it was just this one time. He decided to tag along with Lee and introduced himself as Min, hoping things would finally go his way. Lee noticed right away when the guy started talking about stuff that hadn't even happened yet. That kind of insider info had Lee locked in. After spending 10 years throwing down with monsters and dragons, Min finally admits what he's been through. Now, all he wants is to have the hero of Korea's back. Lee thinks this guy's pretty cool and decides to let him stick around. After they step out of the gate, Lee wonders if Min's just aiming to be a sidekick or if he's got something else in mind. Min lets everyone know he's aiming for that second-in-command spot, pretty much giving Lee the top spot without any argument. Lee calls him out, telling him to drop the names of 10 future players. Doesn't matter if they're squad or rivals. Betrayal's not an option if you cross the line, that's it. Gets the message and nods all in. Before heading off their separate ways, they swap numbers so they can keep in touch. 3 days later, everyone's still trying to get used to the whole world getting reset. Most players keep quiet, not wanting people to call them crazy or still holding out for a shot at starting fresh. With everyone turning back the clock, nobody really stands out as the main guy anymore. Everywhere he looked online, people couldn't stop talking about the new world. Social feeds and news were just packed with stories, clips, and hot takes about it. Lee's chilling in his apartment, eyes glued to the TV. The news anchor pops up on the screen and Lee can't help but pay attention. Moon Young jumps in to announce that everything's basically a game now and brings Lee into the picture, who runs the Asia-Pacific side of the World Player Association. Wanted to know what was really going on with all the wild stuff happening after the regression. Breaks it down saying that when players get stronger, they can actually keep everyone safer and bring things back to normal way faster. The only real issue pops up when people start selling info about the future. Starts to wonder if the whole regression thing has something to do with the final dungeon, because it happened exactly 3 hours after 21 people went in. Lee thinks back, remembering how that last dungeon showed up a decade later. 3 hours after people went inside, everyone ended up getting sent back in time. Starts thinking this might actually be where the game ends for real. The broadcast wraps up right after that. Lee grumbles to himself about how dirty some people are, then it hits him. He used to be the top player. Lee catches the news and it finally clicks. Now he gets why those guys at the hardware store called him hero. A bonus point popped up, and he figured it probably had something to do with the bubble wrap he stuck on his window. Back when he was alive before, he didn't care about any of that stuff. Now even the little things he does are giving him points. He's getting rewards just for sipping some water or chilling on the couch. His total hits 37, and seeing that steady climb just puts him in a better mood. Checking those numbers, he starts to get fired up and wants to push even further. He thinks back, trying to figure out how he was Korea's top player before he even got the butterfly effect skill. Back in the day, he picked up real quick that if you're weak, you get left behind, so he went all in chasing power, through cash and fighting, whatever it took. Now that he's finally got a shot at real power, that old dream starts coming back to him. As the news countdown wraps up, the screen switches to show statues of Lee, Park, and Sung. When the heroes stepped into the final dungeon, he spotted a statue that looked just like him. That moment totally threw him off. Just 3 days after going back in time, he was already getting all this attention, and it honestly felt weird. Back in his old life, he was the top dog. No one got paid more than him to fight. People basically treated him like a weapon, dropping cash just to have him on their side in any battle. Back then, he honestly didn't care about being famous, but these days it just hits way different. After the dungeon event, the reporter points out that every player got worse, hinting that whatever happened inside messed them up. Points out that the 3 heroes dipped out of sight, laying low to keep their rare skills and items safe. Wonders if that's really what's going on and lets him know it's legit. He brings up that there's a new rule now. The heroes who made it to the last dungeon got all their past crimes wiped clean. Lee grabs the remote and shuts off the TV before anything else comes on. Right then, he realizes 2 things for sure. Everyone's after him now, but he's finally allowed to throw hands for real. He grabs his jacket, throws it on, and heads out the door. He's sprinting down the street when it hits him. He's never actually been to Square before, not even once in his old life. Every step he takes, things start to shift. The future's already switching up on him. He uses his bonus points to boost his agility, bumping it up to 52. As he runs, he thinks about how everyone else is always chasing strength or leveling up their mana. He's not following the normal route anymore. His bonus points are stacking up way quicker than everyone else's. He stands out from everyone else. He makes his way into the packed square. He pulls his hoodie up and throws on a mask, thinking this whole thing is just wild. If everyone found out his real identity, things would get wild. He scans the crowd and notices some people are packing hidden weapons. Everyone wants to look tough these days. Ever since players blew up, they're basically treated like celebs. Now he's starting to feel like he's the one being hunted. He glances back at the statues. Back in the day, everyone used to look up to them like they were legends or something. Nobody's around now. He spots his own statue, standing there with the title Shadow of Death carved into it. Out of nowhere, this dude Bay showed up and just wrecked the statue's head with his mace. Suddenly, a system message popped up, letting Lee know he just scored some bonus points for switching up what was supposed to happen. Drops down close by and quickly stashes his weapon out of sight. He had no clue who was standing right in front of him. Breaks the statue and bolts out of there. Lee goes after him, moving quick since his agility is over 50. He notices it's getting tougher to move the way he wants. He caught up to him pretty fast. He grabs and locks his hand around his neck. He takes off his mask and instantly recognizes him. His eyes give it away. Lee wants answers and isn't letting him go anywhere until he finds out what's up. Goes for his mace, but Lee grabs his hand first and snatches it away. That weapon used to be someone else's. He's up against the orc champion, and if things go right, he could stun him and boost his own attack power and strength. Lee wonders how managed to get his hands on such a rare weapon in only 5 days. Lee was sure the guy had to be in a guild, so he held on and basically let him know that being immune to crimes was still on the table. Starts struggling to breathe, desperate to get out. Lee wants to know the guy's name and what guild he's repping. His hands wouldn't stop shaking as he finally owned up to being part of the general guild. Lee tells him to keep going. Then Lee mentions something called Project Lee. Lets it slip that the guild's got a whole plan going. They're trying to snag every skill and item Lee used to own. He finally owns up to it after thinking it over for a bit. The first thing he's going for is the stealth skill. That skill is stashed away in the dungeon, which is set to open up in 3 days. He says 100 players are gonna hang out there, all sure Lee will show up to grab it. Lee suddenly gets it, those players have to be. Later on, Lee catches up with Min and fills him in on everything he just found out. Min doesn't trust at all, so he straight up asks if he can take him out. Lee just shakes his head and isn't having it. Min keeps pushing, saying the guild's gonna move fast, but's out here saying it's actually happening tomorrow. Lee can tell someone isn't telling the truth. The argument keeps getting louder and more heated. Lee suddenly steps in and grabs them both by the neck, not letting go until they show some proof. Pulls out his phone and holds it up, showing an article that says Lee's about to do something big. He had to show up at the dungeon tomorrow, January 7th. He breaks it down, saying this dungeon showed up way earlier than normal, and lycans are way tougher than goblins or orcs. Nobody had ever finished this dungeon before. These things always rolled deep, sticking together. When they got out, they wrecked whole cities and took out thousands of people. Lee finally gets why everyone talks about this dungeon so much. The thing just wrecked everything in its path, and honestly nothing else had people that scared before. Min brings up how he's the reason it got wrecked before. Lee looks over at, wanting to find out who told him to wreck the statue. Loses it and goes straight for his inventory, but Lee is faster. Before anyone can blink, Lee's already taken him out, snapping his neck. A notification pops up, giving Lee a bonus point. He figures it's probably because he let off the hook before. Things are moving way quicker these days, all thanks to the... He looks over at Min and brings up the idea of taking out lycans, maybe with some kind of poison. Wonders why he's even bringing up stuff he should already have figured out by now. Lee stops him and just says straight up that he never actually went back in time, then tells him to keep it on the down low. Just stands there kind of frozen, thinking that knowing stuff doesn't really matter if you don't have the strength to back it up. After all, are level 5 monsters. Nobody under level 5 could get in, so Lee just nodded to himself, knowing he needed to grind and hit level 5 fast. Lee's just level 2, but honestly, knows levels don't really matter to him. He's sitting at 80 stat points, but with those 162 bonus ones added in, his total jumps up to 242. He figures he's about as strong as a level 80 player right now, but points out that even with that kind of power, there's still stuff he needs to watch out for. He doesn't have enough power to take on the right now, and since his level's still too low, he can't even step into the dungeon yet. Lee wants Min to bring him somewhere he can grind and get stronger. Min lets him know that right now, the only spots available are goblin and orc dungeons, since new gates haven't popped up yet. The gate is about to show up tomorrow. Most players just skip over the easy dungeons, saying they're not worth their time. Lee just calls those monsters cuties and uses. He used his bonus points and bumped his strength up to 187. He powered up his armor skill using it. They pull up to a dungeon packed with goblins and orcs. A goblin started chucking rocks, but Lee dodged quick and took out 2 of them like it was nothing. He moves so fast and hits so hard that nobody even gets a chance to fight back. During the fight, he gets curious and brings up skill stones too. Min points out that these things hang out close to a monster's heart, and you can tell what level they are just by looking at their color. Common stuff came in white, rare stuff showed up purple, unique items popped up yellow, and legendary gear was always red. The stealth skill he picked up from the dungeon is rare, so the skill stone gives off this purple glow. Lee wonders what these classes are really about. Lets him know that the rare ones and anything below that level can show up more than once. Some skills are one of a kind, the kind you only see once and never again. But regular skills, those can actually level up and get stronger the more you use them. Whenever Lee brings up special skills, Min just comes clean. He honestly has no clue who they are. Lee just lets it go and moves on. The next day rolls around and Lee finally hits level 5. He and Min are already at the spot, just waiting for the gate to pop up. People are already crowding around. Lee tells Min to just watch and let him handle everything himself. Up ahead, there are about 100 players from the main guild just hanging around waiting. Only 5 people are allowed in the dungeon, and Lee has to be one of them. A guy walks up and lets everyone know this is what's happening. Back then, Lee picked up the stealth skill right here. Now he's all in, letting everyone know the general guild's going to grab it this time. The crowd goes wild, already sure they're about to win. 5 minutes pass and suddenly the countdown kicks off. Once it's over, the gate swings open. Lee takes off so fast that nobody else even has time to process what's happening. Other players yell and throw their arms up, trying hard to stop him. He's faster than anyone else, no contest. He gets to the gate before anyone else and steps inside. 4 more people jumped in right after him. The system popped up and let everyone know the dungeon was packed. Outside stands there totally impressed. He sees that Lee's already done way more in 5 days than any ever could. The moment they spotted Lee, everything changed. Someone on the team called out, getting everyone ready to go. 3 reached for their goblin swords, ready to throw down. He got chef whips wrapped tight around his hands and neck, locking him down so he couldn't move. The 4th guy came in quick and tossed a net right over him. Yeah, they definitely had this all planned out. They realized beating him wasn't an option, so they switched up and tried to set a trap instead. Lee turned things around fast once he activated his armor skill. Instead, the net wrapped them up tight, while they tried to break free. The lycans stormed in, making angry noises as they closed the distance. Lee started to think that maybe getting angry was just how they were built. The players who got stuck started pleading, hoping someone would help them out. They just said they were doing what they were told. Before anyone could say anything else, the lycans rushed in. Everyone there pretty much thought no one was making it out alive. Lee took down the beast like it was nothing, barely breaking a sweat. He remembered that wolves and dogs basically have the same weak spot. Back then, the muzzle was already in play. During a mission, a detection dog ended up biting him. He held the creature down by grabbing its snout tight, making sure it couldn't move. He thought back to that moment. He grabbed the lichens by their snouts and just squeezed until they broke. The monsters dropped to the ground and just stayed there, totally out of it. The players wanted to know why he didn't just finish them off. Lee knew that if he wiped out every monster, the whole dungeon would basically cave in and seal up the gate. So his move was to hunt down the lichen carrying the skill stone first, grab what he needed, and then dip out before anyone outside caught on. That's when the lichens came back to life. Lee thought to himself that this just wasn't cutting it. He broke their bones so bad nothing was left in one piece. He glanced over his shoulder at the players who were stuck, sizing up the whole scene. He wanted to know who was in charge. Their hands shook as they let everyone know it was Sung. Lee remembers seeing another name carved right next to his own statue. He wonders if sent these guys after him just to get the stealth skill. They owned up to it, saying they just did what they were told. One of them suddenly calls out the other for betraying the group. Lee doesn't waste any time. He snatches the guy who yelled and messes up his shoulder fast. He lets everyone know he's serious and not messing around. He spots Sung, the guy who runs the whole guild. He remembered the guy who used to back him up in that last dungeon run, even though they were never really tight. Used to run with his team. Now that same dude switched sides and is coming at him. Lee doesn't feel betrayed at all. He realized everyone was just looking out for themselves, especially as more lichens started popping up everywhere. Lee starts to realize that whenever certain people die, whenever one goes down, another pops up right away, so there's always 25 hanging around in this dungeon at any given time. This actually works out for him. He takes the net off the guys who got tied up, thinking should get why his crew has to go. He chucks them straight at the lichens rushing in. The dungeon's rules are strict, only 5 players can get in at a time. Whenever a group gets wiped out, new people can show up, not long after. New players show up and spot their friends' heads just lying there cut off. They push ahead, fueled by pure anger. Lee takes them down without breaking a sweat and ties them up. He wants answers, so he asks which has the skill stone. Turns out, the one with the white eyebrows is the one who steps up. You can tell they're scared just by how fast they start working together. Lee looks around and spots the injured lichen. He rips it open using just his hands, not even thinking twice. Blood and chunks flying everywhere. He's honestly grossed out and decides Min can take care of this kind of thing next time. He steps inside and spots the stone that's got the stealth skill. Word around the prison is that this skill is the one a hero pulled off in the last dungeon. The inmates kinda wish they'd had a shot at grabbing it themselves. Lee thought about selling the stone to get rich, but in the end he decided to keep it. From the start of the game, power has always been on top. He thinks back to his kid, the one he lost and had to leave behind. He made it through all those wars. Power was finally right there for him to grab. He grabs the chance to change everything. He eats the stone. He saw a message pop up, basically telling him the skill wouldn't unlock until he hit level 10. He gets annoyed seeing his level stuck at 6. He's locked in now, ready to push himself and get stronger. He spends all 102 bonus points to bump his strength stat up to 289. He knows the guild guys are outside, so jumping straight into a fight would be risky. He leaves one alive so the dungeon doesn't close, just to play it safe. Even more start popping up, giving him a chance to keep leveling up. With how strong he is, even a level 5 doesn't faze him. He's just holding back, making sure he doesn't wipe them out way too fast. After grinding through a bunch of battles, he finally hits level 10. Now the stealth skill pops up ready to use. He turns it on and his hand goes see-through, but his clothes don't change at all. At higher levels, the players say even your clothes just disappear. Lee pulls up his skill list and spots progress bars next to each one. Once they find out that full invisibility kicks in at level 2. He takes off his clothes and fires up the skill one more time. He vanished without a trace. It hit him that these new players were here chasing the same skill he had back in his past life. If they'd pulled it off, he'd be done for. Now as he gets ready to head out, the started closing in on the tied players surrounding them. The players look desperate, hoping someone would cut them a break. Lee tells everyone to quiet down and just walks off, not even glancing back at them. People hanging around outside the gate spot that it's open again. Everyone starts murmuring to each other, eyes flicking back and forth, trying to figure out what's up. He couldn't stop thinking about who was already gone and who might be next. At that moment, Lee slips out without anyone noticing, moving quiet. He checks out the crowd, all restless and moving around, and thinks to himself this scene is actually pretty cool to watch. He sees, walks over, and gives his shoulder a quick tap. He signals for him to keep it down. He nodded over at a taxi, basically telling them that was their ride. Later, Lee's phone buzzed as he scrolled through the news feed. Headlines about his comeback and the whole dungeon situation were everywhere. Everyone online is saying his way of hunting is wild. The bodies of 8 regular guild members taken out by the were laid out for everyone to see. Min pulls up a live stream on his phone, and Lee spots a bunch of news anchors talking about how he looks. Back then someone talked about how he always kept his cool and stayed confident right before tackling the last dungeon in their past life. He threw up his middle finger at the reporters, and just like that, everyone started seeing him as the face of standing up to the system. People online now argue about whether he's popular just because of how he acts, or if there's actually something else making him stand out. The whole vibe changes as soon as Park, the head guy from the Player Skills and Tech Association, jumps into the second Lee showed up in the dungeon. He says it was basically game over. His words set everyone off, and even Lee didn't see that coming. Came at saying he was messing things up but just stood his ground. He talks about how his crew checked out the bodies and saw that every skull got smashed in with just one hit. Lichen bones are tough, almost impossible to break, so if someone's smashing through them like it's nothing, you just know that guy's gotta be at least level 40 with all his stats dumped into strength. Gets asked whether he used some kind of special gear, but he shuts it down right away. Nobody could figure out what caused that much destruction. There was anything people knew about that could wreck stuff like this. He grabs a lichen head, holds it up, and shows off the wound before jumping right into the fight. People online are saying Lee straight up smashed their skulls just by flicking his finger. Some streamers can't stop laughing about it, while others are already calling for him to step down. Lee thinks about it and realizes that the ones ignoring are all the big shots, people with money, power, and the backing of guilds or associations. Companies making money off the game are worried. They're scared that if the real story gets out, everyone's mood will tank and their cash flow will take a big hit. Wraps things up by saying that if the game ever hits that last level again, Lee's definitely going to be one of the guys who makes it to the end. The anchors brush off what he says, but one of them jokes around, linking something Lee did before to how strong he is now. Lee just couldn't believe it. He stared for a second, trying to figure out how she even ended up as an anchor. He thinks about how his life's headed in a totally new direction now, nothing like how things used to be. His strength didn't change at all. He figured out pretty quick that just having good stats means nothing if he can't level up. He couldn't get into the dungeon or really sneak around much in the beginning since his level was too low. Lee wants to level up, so he knows he needs more XP. Locked in on his goal, he heads out to a different dungeon and starts grinding lichens. Now what used to hype him up just doesn't hit the same anymore. He's pretty much over the usual crowd and wants to switch things up. Min just reminds him that honestly this spot still pulls in the best action. Lee wanted to know what the next dungeon was. Told him about the level 14 Blue Monkey dungeon, but nobody could get in yet. It had only been 5 days, so the place was still off limits. Lee spots a chance. With the place locked up, no one else can get in. After that, the Blue Monkeys just show up by themselves. Min remembers just how wild things got back in their past lives, knowing they were seriously dangerous back then. Lee knows things could get dicey, but he's still sure he's got this. He's stacking up bonus points that would take most people grinding for over 100 levels just to catch up, and now he's convinced that when it comes to real power, nothing else really matters. Monsters aren't even a problem. The people who never turned into players didn't get sent back, but they already know the Blue Monkeys are about to show up and wreck everything. 6 days into the game, the streets were totally deserted. Nobody really stands a chance against monsters like that. Lee and Min step into this underground parking lot, and the quiet just hits different. It's like the whole place is holding its breath. Mint's never spotted a blue monkey in real life. He's only caught them on the news. But he's well aware these things are straight up terrifying. They're way above level 10, can hit targets from a distance, and even copy what people do. A car horn blares somewhere far off, and Min just figures the monsters must gotten their hands on it. Lee notices they're already way past the gate. He pulls up his status screen and drops every single one of his 251 bonus points straight into agility, bumping it all the way up to 578. He darts forward, disappearing straight at the monsters before anyone can react. Just stands there totally stunned. He knew that if a blue monkey landed just one hit, it'd be game over for him. Lee just slices through the monsters like it's nothing. They try to get out, but the rules shut them down and there's no way back into the dungeon. He notices how scared they look, just like how people get when they know something bad is about to happen. Min thinks it's wild how the monsters everyone used to be scared of are now the ones running for their lives. Lee's got this big grin on his face as he runs after them, totally locked in on grinding XP. He knows if he stops leveling up, he's out. No more dungeons, no new skills, nothing. So he keeps pushing, making sure he never falls behind. He checks his stats again and sees he's already at level 17, with 202 bonus points stacked up. Can't believe he leveled up this fast in just 6 days. It honestly blows his mind. Lee starts to get tired. His energy's running out and he can't keep up his speed and power like before. He throws every single point into stamina, bumping it up to 213. He jumps right back into the fight. The blue monkeys start tossing stuff at him, trying to mess him up. Nothing can stop him as soon as the last one drops. Min just stands there, eyes wide, taking it all in. He starts thinking about how everyone online would totally freak out if they ever saw this. Lee suddenly realizes the security cameras have been catching everything this whole time. Min stands by the gate and throws out the idea that they should just break it down. He breaks it down, saying if the place stays open, monsters will just keep popping up, turning it into an easy farming spot, but the catch is, it'll stop the tougher monsters from showing up. Lee knows these blue monkeys aren't giving him any real challenge anymore. He only showed up because there isn't a tougher dungeon out there yet. Points out that once people finish off a dungeon, tougher ones just pop up. And honestly, nobody lets the easy ones stick around for long. Lee wonders if beating more dungeons just ends up making things tougher for everyone else. Gives him a nod, confirming it. Everyone noticed Lee just finished a level 14 gate in only 6 days, when it used to take them almost a month back then. Lee wants to know how found out, so pulls out his phone and shows an app where people drop their dungeon runs and share tips. The first time someone clears it for real, it's legit. Now everyone knows who the top players are all across the country. After hearing that, Lee jumps online and uploads their record, using the name Fearless. He picks that name because it straight up means you're not scared of anything. Nods and posts it online. Not long after, the forums start going wild. Everyone's either hyped up or freaking out about what's happening in the world. Level 15 dungeons just showed up. Inside a nearby shelter, people are glued to the broadcast, watching everything go down. The little girl looked over at her mom, trying to figure out when they'd finally get to head home. Her mom just let her know it'd be 29 days before they could leave. A guy suddenly yells out that they finished clearing the dungeon. Everyone just called him a liar, right up until the screens popped up. The screen lit up, showing Lee taking down the blue monkeys one after another. The whole hall lit up with cheers when they saw it was real. Over on the player's site, everyone spotted the new name, Fearless. Nobody really knows his name, but nobody cares. For everyone watching, there's just a new hero in town. Lee and his friend strolled down the street, talking about everything that went down in their old lives. His friend remembered how the level 15 dungeon got cleared just 41 days after the game kicked off. It all went down in Japan, where that horse with the red eyes showed up. Korea had its own level 15 gate, but nobody there could handle it. While Lee was still wondering what monster they'd have to take on next, things stayed tense. His friend points out that it's just a level 15 giant bear, so nothing to freak out about. Monsters under level 20 don't really have any crazy abilities, so they're not a big deal. The tough ones come later and take way more time to beat. He still remembers when it took 71 days just to clear the gap between the level 19 and level 20 dungeons. They keep moving down the road, and his buddy starts thinking 300 kilometers might be way too much. But Lee just keeps going, saying every step counts and it's all adding up for him, so just walking is actually worth it. His friend starts thinking about how even the little things they do can actually switch up what happens next. Lee moves slow, watching every step, since even something small, like dropping a pen or dodging a bug, could totally change what comes next. He knows every tiny decision tweaks where his day goes. Out of nowhere, a truck blasts its horn behind them. The driver is yelling, tossing out curses, and telling them to get out of the way. Lee stays chill, but the guy just gets louder and floors it. Lee's face tightens up, and you can tell he's mad. Lee moves fast, slipping away before his friend even gets a chance to react. He finally catches up to the truck, steps up to the driver, and lets him know straight up that if he doesn't chill out, things could get bad real quick. The driver says sorry real quick, and Lee just shrugs it off, deciding it's not worth getting mad about. They get back on the road and keep moving. Lee notices the dungeons are popping up way quicker now, and he sees this as his shot to get way ahead of everyone else. People who remember how things used to be are starting to fall behind, but he just keeps leveling up by himself. Inside the level 15 dungeon, Lee faces off against a giant bear that totally dwarfs him. He knows that when level 20 monsters start showing up, they're about to start pulling out their skills, so he's gotta level up fast. The bear swings at him with serious force, knocking him backwards. He slips past and scrambles up the creature's arm. He digs deep and suddenly snaps its neck, then just stands there watching as it drops to the ground. Even more beasts started pouring in. He takes them all down. While this was going down, people online started buzzing about who actually beat the level 14 dungeon. People can't agree on who it was. Some say Lee started it, while others are sure it was Park. His friend lets him know Poison already took down the level 16 dungeon. His real name's, back in the day, he actually rolled into the last dungeon with Lee and the others. Lee thinks that probably picked up some rare skill from whatever went down in his old life. His friend remembers how he used to run things as the Poison King, and was basically the top guy in Korea's strongest guild, the General Guild. Lee thinks back to when tried to snatch his stealth skill, so now he knows he's gotta pick up the pace. When Lee brings up Sweepin, his friend remembers this black dagger that used to be owned by the Golden Leopard, a level 20 monster from Korea. Lee just brushes off the memory and stays locked in on his own grind. His friend lets him know that the level 17 dungeon got cleared on January 9th, and level 18 was finished the next day. After clearing another dungeon, Lee wanted to know where they were headed next. The level 19 dungeon was waiting near station, and the level 21 one was about to pop up at Park Over Inn. Lee checks the time and figures it's about a 30-minute trip if the roads aren't packed. His friend chills out, knowing not many people hang out in that area, but Lee isn't letting his guard down. He points out that even if a crowd shows up, nobody's getting inside. He's the only one allowed to pick up the weapon again. Now that he's hit level 21, Lee's got 744 bonus points stacked up. He dumps every single point into strength, just going all in to get stronger. His score jumped up to 1033. Right then, a pop-up from the system showed up on his screen. For the first time ever, his strength stat just broke past 1000. Now he's got a new title to flex, King of Strength. He picks up the Petrify skill, letting him freeze someone solid for 3 seconds. Trying the skill out on his friend, he sees right away how strong it really is. His buddy even says Lee's strength now reminds him of when was younger. Back in China, the emperor basically ran the show. He led everyone, took charge, and cleared a ton of dungeons like it was nothing. Lee starts thinking if his new ability matches what the emperor can do, and his buddy lets him know it actually does. Lee tells his friend to head over to Park and keep an eye on whoever shows up. At the same time, he's getting ready to run through the level 19 dungeon over at station. Min nods and says he'll reach out if something weird goes down. After that, they split up and get on with whatever they have to do next. Lee stands in front of the level 19 gate, already knowing it's the last thing between him and unlocking the level 20 Golden Leopard dungeon. All around, crimson-eyed moles crawl everywhere, making the place feel wild. He remembers that clearing any level 19 dungeon unlocks the level 20 gate, but looking around, it's clear no one else is pulling it off. He steps up and chooses to handle it on his own. Around him, soldiers are everywhere, making sure everyone gets out safely. One guy steps in front of Lee and wants to see some ID. Lee just straight up says he doesn't have any. Out of nowhere, a mole pops up from the ground. The soldiers aimed and started shooting at the ground, but their bullets didn't do anything at all. The soldier wants him to get out of there, but Lee just stays cool and points out that regular weapons aren't going to do anything against these monsters. He gets the question if he's a player and just gives a nod. A new mole pops up behind them. Lee uses his Petrify skill. He stopped it in the air, just like hitting pause on a video. He goes in and just snaps its neck. The soldier notices what's happening, steps out of the way and lets him pass. Lee checks out the dungeon and notices the moles aren't just tough, they're smart too. They keep themselves hidden way down below, making things way harder. He realizes there's no way he can dig them out, so he just grabs the blue monkey's fur from his inventory. When someone burns it, nasty smoke comes out, and that smoke pretty much calls the monsters over. Smoke started filling up the tunnels, so all the moles had to pop out and head above ground. Lee takes out every single one without breaking a sweat. In no time, all 15 are down for good. A system alert popped up, letting everyone know the dungeon was cleared, and the gates were about to drop in 3 minutes. His phone buzzes, lets him know reporters are all over the entrance to the Golden Leopard dungeon. Lee tells him to get rid of them and lets him know he'll be there soon. Min can't help but notice something's off. The General Guild totally knows about Lee's sneaky moves, but they still haven't pulled up. That just doesn't add up for him. Lee figures they're steering clear of him, since running into him basically means game over. Lee dips out on the soldiers and heads straight for Park in his car. He shows up and the whole spot is packed. He gets kind of annoyed and hits up, reminding him that clearing everyone out was his job. Min tells them he did what he could, but nobody really paid attention. Lee steps outside, ready to take care of things on his own. The second the reporters see him, they rush over, calling out his name like they're all trying to get his attention at once. People start tossing out questions from all sides. A few even point fingers at him, saying he's the reason the team's vibe is down. Some people blame him for stirring things up because he clears dungeons way too fast. People start asking him for selfies and autographs, and it gets loud fast. All the attention is really starting to get on his nerves. After spending years in non-stop battles, he's realized how much he actually appreciates quiet moments. He looks out at everyone and lets them know straight up, being weak isn't something to be ashamed of. Blaming other people for your own mistakes is just messed up. Anyone who does that honestly deserves the worst. The crowd goes silent for a second after he speaks up. The reporter suddenly mentions Boward, that Canadian dude who made it all the way to the final dungeon once. Thinks Lee's pretty strong right now, but he figures Lee will end up being the weakest once he's up against the top-tier players. Lee wants to know which station pulls in the most viewers. As soon as someone signals to a reporter, he faces the camera. He lifts his hand, flips Boward off, and that's his answer right there. Lee walks into the Golden Leopard dungeon, spotting 7 of those big cats just hanging around. This dungeon only lets in 2 people at a time, and it's got a B+ difficulty level. Guys know it for dropping rare loot you can't just find anywhere. He remembers it usually takes 2 solid players to take down these monsters. B-rank dungeons are no joke. A leopard let out a loud roar and he just froze right there. He wasn't surprised, since he already knew the roar would stop him from pulling off any skills for a bit. He can't use his powers now, so he's gotta switch up how he fights. As another leopard jumps at him, he dodges its claws without missing a beat. He knows one wrong move could end everything, so he turns on his stealth mode right away. He slipped through the chaos without anyone noticing. He moves fast, barely making a sound as he comes out of nowhere. He focused on moving fast and being super accurate, not really worrying about blocking or defending. He figures out that the only thing he can really do now is go for a grapple. He grabs the leopard and throws it down hard. The fight keeps going, but he doesn't back down. In the end, every single one of the 7 beasts goes down. A notice pops up saying the dungeon's done, so he pulls up his inventory to see what he got. Sitting inside is a blade called the Dagger of Destruction. The description says it takes power from whoever's using it. Lee puts it on, ready to see what happens. He noticed it didn't have any set stats, but the power coming off it was unreal. He turns on his armor and notices the dagger suddenly picks up the same ability. When he goes invisible, his blade just vanishes too, like it was never there. As he gets stronger, so does it, just like what happened before. He's good with how things turned out, so he gets ready to dip just as the gate starts falling apart. Outside, reporters crowd around him again, cameras flashing like he's trending or something. Everyone starts yelling his name, throwing out questions about Fearless nonstop. The sounds coming from the dungeon and his weapon just get on his nerves. He sees Min hanging out close by. Saying sorry for not clearing the spot, Lee just gets it. His friend isn't really someone people listen to, so there's not much he can do. While all this is going down, he catches something weird happening. Nobody else showed up. Usually this spot would be crawling with players trying to snag his loot or copy his skills, but today it was just him. Nobody's shown up. That thought just messes with his head. A reporter suddenly calls out. He keeps wondering when he'll finally unlock the Eye of the God skill. Lee just stops in his tracks, totally lost, since this is something he's never heard about before. His friend perks up when he hears the name Eye of the God and gives him a quick signal. Lee saw it and remembered that used to be his move. Reporters swarm around him, all trying to get the scoop on his stats and what level he's at. Lee just says he's level 20, not stressing at all. His strength was at 1033, suddenly everything went quiet. He acts like the rules don't apply to him anymore. He lets everyone know straight up that if someone messes with him again, he's not holding back. Next time it's game over. The next day, everything around the world just goes wild. Everyone starts seeing wild headlines in the newspapers, calling him the start of something godlike and clowning on for all the trash he talked before. Some people said the Golden Leopard dungeon got cleared in under 40 minutes. Government started stressing about him, while North Korea straight up called him a threat to the whole world. Everyone's talking about how he never does interviews and even warned the media to back off. Lee and just hang out in his living room later on. Lee wanted to know if the Eye of the God was real. Min let him know it actually exists. Back in his past life, Lee had this thing. It let him check out what his opponents were working with, their stats, their gear, everything. This gave him a skill no one else had every time it leveled up. It went through something known as a second awakening, leveling up big time. Not just getting stronger, but also switching up its whole look. Thinks that once you level up more, Lee's skill picked up on tiny things, like the way an enemy's eyes twitched or how their heartbeat changed. That gave him insane accuracy whenever he fought. Lee wants to know where it is, so tells him to look it up on the player website. This thing keeps tabs on dungeon runs. It's not perfect, but it helps cut down the hunt. Lee's clock is ticking. Tons of players have already leveled down and they're all about to rush for the skill. Big guilds and even beginners are all out looking for it. Lets him know he used to be one of the top players before, and people still talk about him all the time. Word got out fast about Project Lee, and now all the top guilds are digging into the stats and stories of everyone who made it to the last dungeon. Lee starts thinking maybe these records exist because someone already knew regression was coming. Min lets everyone know these things were actually built to kill. Every guild kept tabs on strong players, tracking how they got their gear and skills. With that info, they could line up robberies and take people out without breaking a sweat. The General Guild found out Lee had some serious armor, so they tried to jack his stealth skill. They came at him with whips and nets, thinking they could catch him off guard. They kept an eye on him, not giving up, just waiting for their next shot. Lee spots the records and instantly gets it. They're basically treasure maps pointing him right back to his old strength. Min remembers that his own guild used to gather info like that back in the day too. In this world, skills and gear meant everything, and taking someone out was just part of staying alive. Guilds kept an eye on dungeon gates, so they pretty much knew the moment someone unlocked a new skill. Lee thinks back on how the main guild usually handles things. Sung, known as the Poison King, runs the strongest crew in Korea. He's also an old rival. Everyone's already seen what he can do. Now he might be after something even bigger, the Eye of the God. Min thinks they're probably tapping into old memories to craft some next-level weapons way earlier than anyone expects. Lee's down for it, but he points out they probably skipped the Golden Leopard dungeon for a couple reasons. They're just waiting for him to pick up all his old skills and gear, then planning to take him out and snatch everything in one go. Next up is Fear. The way he showed off his power had everyone spooked, so nobody wanted to step up to him again. Lee hops onto the game site and spots that someone with the username Poison just finished the level level 21 Black Orc dungeon. He notices grinding early, already locked in before everyone else. Players from the US and China had their names up on the but once everyone hit level 20. Now it's just him and Sung left on the list. He's hit level 25 now and stacked up 732 bonus points. He puts the points into concentration and bumps it up to 733. He thinks about how nobody can call themselves Emperor right now, since you need to have a stat over 1000 to get that title. After his strength leveled up past that point, he scored the title King of Strength and unlocked the Petrify skill, the same one Emperor had back in his last life. Nobody's beat anything higher than a level 21 dungeon yet, so hitting that kind of power is basically impossible right now. His friend is totally on board, pointing out that staying focused is super important. Lee breaks it down, saying it helps with fighting, knowing what's going on, dodging attacks and landing hits way better. He could finally go all out and actually use his strength. Plus, it came in clutch when his skills were off the table. Someone checked if he was running low on mana. He just says he never really runs out because he knows how to handle it smart. Lee thinks it's time to level up his sneaking game, so he gets locked in and starts working on his stealth skills. His friend thinks just smashing through would probably get the job done quicker. Stealth, according to Lee, is all about sneaking around, picking up info by slipping into places unnoticed and checking things out without getting caught. He wanted it to be better, so he decided to level it up to 2 before heading over to the General Guild HQ. The moment they walk out, his friend looks at what he's wearing and points out how basic his outfit is. He keeps pushing, saying he should step up his style now that he's getting stronger. Lee isn't really sure about it, but he still goes along and heads to this shop that's pretty popular for selling gear for dungeon players. The shopkeeper saw Lee and instantly knew who he was. He brings out the clothes and gives them to him, making it clear they're a gift just for him. He found the gesture pretty funny. Lee says yes, throws on his new outfit and heads out. He wants to know how to boost his stealth skills. He learns from his friend that getting good at something really just means knowing how it works and practicing it over and over. Whenever he did specific things, his skill points went up and messages from the system popped up. Lee's pretty sure the other guys who got sent back in time already know these tricks, so he just jumps right in and starts trying stuff out. The group heads straight into a dungeon packed with goblins and orcs. Goblins aren't really a problem, so Lee just locks in on the orcs instead. He switches on stealth mode right as one lets out a roar up in the sky. He was close by, trying out a bunch of different ways to solve the problem. He tries to blend armor with stealth, but it just doesn't work out. He quickly changes it up and goes for the orc, landing a solid hit. He kept practicing and started getting pretty good at using his neck. Once he sees that the method actually works, he just keeps going, grinding out hunts until his stealth skill bumps up to level 2. Now whenever something touches his skin, it can turn see-through if he uses his mana. Lee felt like he'd finally gotten what he wanted, so he switched gears and wanted to know where the General Guild HQ was. His buddy let him know it was out in, over in. Lee grinned, thinking this place had to have some serious money behind it. Lee waits outside the General Guild HQ, keeping his stealth skill running so nobody spots him. 2 guild guys moved up front, both kind of annoyed about all the problems Lee was causing. One guy whispers that they're just faking it to grab some cash, and the other quickly tells him to chill and keep it down. They swipe their cards while the guard nods at them. Lee slides in right behind, making his move without anyone noticing. One player stops for a second, gets a weird vibe, but just shrugs it off and keeps going. Lee thinks he just barely made it, so he tunes in while the announcer starts talking. Every exec just got pinged for a 9:30 meeting. He chooses to go after them. Once he's in the conference room, he makes sure to stay hidden. A guy kicks off the meeting, pointing out that it's January 14th. One of the A-rank players points out that he isn't around, he's off clearing a level 23 dungeon right now. Another guy starts thinking about whether this okay. A B-rank player announces that his master is about to take the Eye of God for himself. Lee pays close attention to the words, making sure he remembers them. Every time they get together, Lee's name comes up. Everyone's tired of hearing about him, but the dude's impossible to track down. No one knows where he's at. Points out that if they can't even find where he is, there's no chance of catching him. Lee can't help but grin to himself, knowing he's right on the spot. Points out that if they lose the stealth skill, the dagger, and now the Eye of God, they're basically done for. The guy running the meeting says Lee's gonna show up for the Eye of God. People in charge started freaking out, saying Lee's power just leveled up way past what anyone thought was possible. He holds up a newspaper showing Lee's strength score 1033. He just can't believe it's real. Just brushes it off, thinking the guy is just trying to scare him. He stays cool and asks what the actual plan is. The guy pulls out some papers, showing everyone what Lee did before. He let everyone know he got the Eye of God after clearing out the level 34 Black Ogre dungeon. He takes out 4 people from the guild, and then casually looks around, wanting anyone who just got dropped to show themselves. Han and Lee Jin were there too. Park Ho and Go Sang jump into action. Lee watches them without saying a word, thinking back on what happened to each of them. Remembers how there's always some rare skill hidden in that dungeon. Their master had sent them in a long time ago, probably hoping they'd find something worth the risk. Everyone thought Lee was an easy target, but underestimating him cost them their lives. You can hear it in their voices, they're definitely spooked just thinking back on what happened. Park still gets chills just thinking about it. Points out that the Eye of God skill always shows up whenever someone goes into that dungeon. Now they know stuff they only learned after going back in time. Lee checks out the papers, eyes scanning for anything wild. He kept track of where the dungeon was and remembered what took down the monster. Wants to know what everyone's thinking and what they're about to do next. Lets everyone know their master is actually pulling up himself this time. Since only they and Lee really get how the dungeon works, they're just waiting for the right moment to take him out and snatch the Eye of God back. He suggests they use SA2 to deal with the black ogres. Another player steps up, calling him out because everyone knows that drug isn't allowed. Stands firm, saying this is the only shot they've got to stop Lee. Park nods, ready to back up their leader and promising to come back with the eye. Staying hidden, Lee listens in and quietly thinks about whether he's actually ready to go out the same way all over again. People never really run out of ideas. Even when monsters start wrecking everything, humans start checking out the leftover parts and figure out how to turn them into gear just to stay alive. Monster parts are wild compared to anything you'd find on Earth. Some are tougher than steel but still super light, some burn way hotter than regular coal, and others come in these crazy detailed shapes you wouldn't expect. People keep pushing tech forward, but it doesn't always end well. That's how the drug SA2 came into the picture. Lee hits up his friend to find out more about the drug. Right away, his friend freaks out and tells him that stuff is totally banned by the World Player Association. Lee wants to know what it's for, so his friend tells him it makes a monster way stronger. There was this test where a goblin got juiced up so much that it actually beat a level 20 golden leopard. That drug was never meant for healing or anything good. It was built to drop monsters into enemy territory. Things got wild fast. Soldiers and players started getting wiped out by beasts that shouldn't have been a problem. During the guild meeting, Lee breaks it down for everyone. SA2 only sticks around for a full day, just 24 hours. Lee shows up at the Black Ogre Gate, and their crew's ready to juice up the monsters with some drug that'll boost their power all the way to level 100. After they take him out, they're planning to grab all his skills, gear, and that Eye of God thing. Is cool with the plan but tells everyone to keep it quiet since if word gets out, the whole guild could fall apart. He knows the Eye of God is way too important to risk, so he tells everyone they need to level up first before even thinking about taking on those level 33 black ogres. Eugene nods, showing he's down with their plan and appreciates that they've got his back. Out of nowhere, Lee gets a heads up from the system that his stealth skill is about to turn off because he's almost out of mana. He wishes he'd put more points into it way earlier. He doesn't waste any time and dumps all 243 bonus points straight into mana, bumping his total up to 341. Notices right away when the vibe changes and starts wondering who just pulled off that skill. Just brushes it off, not really buying it, but doubles down, saying he seriously picked up on some crazy mana energy. He wants to handle it fast before everyone else starts getting ideas. Right then, somebody stepped in to let everyone know that just showed up. Steps into the room and everyone immediately stiffens up. Lee can tell the energy coming off him is on another level. Lets everyone know they don't need to stress. Brings up SA2, saying it's their one shot at beating, who honestly just looks unbeatable right now. Sung backs up, saying he's not the type to make stuff up, even if what he can do is honestly wild. He tells the group it's time to go, and everyone gets ready to head out. Walks by. Lee thinks about stepping up to him. He brushes it off and just locks in on going through the archives. He trails behind a guy holding a stack of papers, keeping his eyes on him the whole time. He slid inside right as the guy was getting his eye scanned to get in. He stays so focused that not even a sound comes from him moving around. He steps in and finally shows who he really is. He wraps the guy up tight using blue monkey fur. He grabs hold of the records from his last life. He checks out the papers, using his lighter for some light while it flickers. Every fight he ever had, every player he ever took down, it's all written out in these records. Going through them, he gets this sad vibe. He checks out the list of stuff and skills. He notices how each one matches up perfectly with the monster it came from, and honestly he can't help but respect how spot on it is. After beat the level 245 dungeon, his past records showed what happened next. His whole body switched up. He turned all dark and unstable, just tearing through anything that got in his way. Nobody could even put into words what they saw. That move turned into a legendary skill, and everyone started calling it Lee's Shadow. After that, people just called him the Shadow of Death. After everything got reset, Sung ended up with that power. Now he runs the General Guild. As Lee looks through the records, it hits him. This is the last thing he'll ever find about where he came from and where he's headed. He's pretty sure it's just a copy, so he pushes for the real deal before wiping out the whole archive. He smashed the supercomputer that stored everything about the guild. He racks up a huge stack of bonus points, which just proves how the guild's collapse totally messed with how things work in the world now. Messing up the archive totally changes what's coming next. He knew that getting strong had to come before anything else. Lee dumps every bonus point he's got straight into strength, bumping the stat all the way up to 2054. He hits up his friend, letting him know there's no way to tell just how much the SA2 drug will power up these monsters. Lee wanted to know if his friend found out anything else, but his friend just pointed out that having a strength stat of 2000 by itself is actually wild. His friend tells him the drug was first made to boost the loot you get from dungeons. Most people thought that if a monster was tougher, the dungeon would be way harder, and the loot would be way better. They decided to test it out by giving the drug to monsters, but then, the system didn't catch the update, so nobody could really tell what the drug would do, making it risky and kind of wild to mess with. Lee thinks the drug is a real hassle and can't help but wonder what the General Guild is up to, especially if they're planning to use it on black ogres. His buddy throws out the idea that they should try it out before doing anything else. They take the goblin and just straight up give him the drug. Out of nowhere, it lets out a loud roar and rushes forward with crazy energy. Lee doesn't waste a second. He snatches the thing by the head and just smashes it, no hesitation. He noticed how fast it was, but honestly it still wasn't strong enough to match him. Later on, Lee heads into this level 27 dungeon that's packed with these creepy zombies with teeth everywhere. The smell coming off them is so bad, it's almost impossible for him to concentrate. They're quick, darting around like blue monkeys, and their jaws are straight up iron. Nothing stands a chance against them. Even smashing their heads or messing up their insides doesn't slow them down at all. Lee figures the only move left is to cut the head off. He moves quietly, taking out each one without making a sound. He gets nothing out of this fight, no XP, just a wasted effort. He still scores 456 bonus points. Even though it helps, he still thinks something's missing. When the final zombie hits the ground, the system lets everyone know that all the monsters are down, and there's only 3 minutes left before the gate crashes. Another notification pops up, letting him know his butterfly skill just leveled up. He realizes his choices are seriously changing what's coming next. Lee stops for a second, trying to figure out what the system is actually saying. Lee steps out through the gate and looks around for his friend. He checks to see if there's anything else they need to figure out. He let everyone know he was good without any help, thanks to regression. Every player got hit with 3 questions from the system right when things started. His friend lets him know he already spent 1 to figure out why regression happened, so now they've got 2 left. Lee brings up the idea of talking about skill levels. His friend isn't sure though, thinking it might just end up pointless. He finally gives in. Then he wants to know what's up with the proficiency points for butterfly effect. He checks, but the system comes back saying there's no skill like that. He's totally caught off guard and lets Lee know the system didn't pick it up. He starts thinking maybe Lee's got some hidden trick up his sleeve, like a cheat code or something that's not even part of the actual game. They barely get a chance to talk it out when a fresh dungeon gate pops up out of nowhere. A notification pops up saying a level 1 special dungeon just opened, but it's got S-rank difficulty. Only 1 player's allowed in. Lee's phone buzzes, and he sees he just snagged over 4,000 points from the butterfly effect. That big score is what set off the dungeon showing up. He tells his friend to just ask the system and get it over with, but his friend isn't having it. After blowing his last question, the guy's just annoyed and doesn't even want to try again. He gets annoyed at the game, thinking the system just ignores stuff that's obviously there. Lee nods at the gate, making it clear that the system saying no doesn't really matter when the evidence is right there in front of them. A warning pops up, letting him know there's only 30 seconds left before the gate shuts. Both of them start thinking about whether it might close by itself. Lee steps up and tells his buddy to ask the system about the gate. Meanwhile, he heads in on his own. Whenever a player or a small squad gets way stronger than the rest, the system drops special dungeons just for them. The god behind the game set up these dungeons to keep things fair. Beating level 1 unlocks a special move that's built to shut down players who seem unbeatable. His friend figures out that the gate showed up because of Lee, and now anyone who beats it might end up getting a skill powerful enough to actually take on Lee. The system finally says why it didn't reply before. Info on special dungeons just dropped a few seconds ago. His friend, looking kind of annoyed, thinks Lee's just going to get even stronger now. Inside the dungeon, Lee moves down a dark hallway. He figured an S-rank dungeon should honestly hook him up with some kind of unique skill. Out of nowhere, a goblin pops up in front of him, grinning in this creepy way. Lee couldn't believe it when the creature actually started talking. It showed up saying it was the guardian of this weird dungeon, and then dropped its level for everyone to see. The number 200 pops up on the screen, totally catching him off guard, almost like it's making fun of how shocked he is. He told him it would all be over fast and that it wouldn't hurt. He lifts up a ball of fire blazing hot and just launches it straight at him. Right as the flames reach him, Lee turns on his armor. He gets a pop-up saying his armor skills just leveled up. He notices it powers up whenever it takes hits that break through its guard. The skill leveled up to 2, and now he could send out a shockwave. The goblin freezes up, clearly not expecting Lee to be that strong. He rushes forward, sending out another blast of fire. Lee pulls out his petrify skill. He stopped the creature in the air, then just sent it crashing straight down to the ground. The goblin just stares, totally not buying what he's seeing. Lee moves in and grabs the thing by the head, ready to crush it. The goblin steps in and stops the hit. Lee did not expect the skull to still be in one piece, but there it was, completely untouched. The goblin grinned and suddenly called out 3 clones, ready to back him up. One clone is hyped up about how strong Lee is, while another can't figure out how he's managed to last this long. Energy blasts came flying at Lee, but he moved fast, dodging every single one without breaking a sweat. One clone sneaks up from behind and goes in for the attack. Lee stops the hit and fires back with his own move. His armor blasts out a wave of energy, launching the goblin straight back. He's seriously impressed by the force. The goblin just looks at the clone on the ground, totally thrown off. He kept mumbling to himself, wondering how anyone could actually be this strong. Lee goes for it again and takes out another clone, not slowing down at all. The last 2 turn around and head out. He keeps going, not slowing down for a second. He realizes they actually get what people are saying, even while he's chasing after them. He dumped every single bonus point he had straight into strength. He cranks it up to 3,486. Lee charges in, totally fired up, not holding back at all. One of the clones starts tearing up, saying there's no way their deaths were supposed to happen if the god really had a plan. Lee swings hard, dropping the guy in one shot. The last goblin's eyes go wide, he's clearly spooked. Before anyone notices, Lee just slips out, going full stealth mode and disappearing from the scene. He drives his dagger straight into its neck. The creature drops to the ground, he just leveled up. He figures out it's because he took down a seriously tough monster. His phone buzzes with an alert saying every monster's down, and now the gate's got 3 minutes before it shuts for good. After the level 200 Guardian went down, he unlocked a special skill just for him. He could feel the hype building up while he waited to see what he'd get as a reward. Lee unlocks a new special skill called Eye of the Reversal. This lets him check out what another player remembers, but it can't check out the memories of anyone who's got more power than he does. He could only use it once every 24 hours. This skill basically lets new players catch up to the old pros, who used to depend on what they remembered and all the stuff they'd learned over time. Lee walked out the gate and ran into his friend, who wasted no time asking if he'd picked up a new special skill. Lee doesn't bother talking, he just shows what he can do and uses the skill on him right away. Suddenly, a system message pops up, wanting to know which memory he wants to check out. Lee picks the moment when they were at the supermarket. The memory just plays out in his head, almost like he's watching it happen right in front of him. He could pause or rewind whenever he wanted. He jumps forward in the story and sees the part where Min's dad dies. After that, he notices how Min can't shake off the guilt. He notices Min staring at him like he just did something awesome. He seriously thought Lee could take on every monster out there and actually make a difference in the world. Lee checks out what's in front of him and can't help but grin. He says what his friend was just thinking, and that instantly makes turn red. He's out here telling everyone he's gonna wipe out every monster and run the whole world. Lee checks out his friend's thoughts one more time and catches him thinking of Lee as his lord. He messes with Min and Min gets all awkward, hoping he'll chill out. Lee just laughs to himself and figures he'll chill until the level 29 dungeon drops. Later on, Lee chills in his apartment and posts an update to the game site, letting everyone know he just beat the level 28 Golden Tooth zombie dungeon. People start blowing up the comments, some call him out for being unfair, others hype him up, and a bunch of folks are stressed about the mess these stronger monsters are making. Some people still don't believe anyone can clear the last dungeon, but others already treat him like he's on another level. Lee tunes out the argument and just locks in on uploading his best times. Everything rides on these, since the government and World Player Association use them to decide the official rankings. If he made it into the top 10, he'd be free from rules and wouldn't have to pay taxes anymore. But deep down, he's still focused on reaching that last dungeon. It's supposed to give him insane power and make him famous like never before. Comes back and lets everyone know that Sung just finished the Nice Poisonous Spider dungeon. Pulling this off looks straight up impossible unless he unlocks some new skill. Lee thinks is trying to get his hands on the Eye of God. He's totally ready for them to face off at the Black Ogre dungeon. The story jumps over to a level 30 dungeon in South Korea, a spot everyone calls hogs. Lee stands in front of this giant hog, and every time the thing roars, its horns get even bigger. He knows one hit might end him, but he can't ignore how valuable that horn is. His mana starts dropping fast because Eye of the Reversal eats up a ton of energy. He still had 112 bonus points ready to go. He dumps every single point into mana. He felt a new burst of energy as he rushed straight at the monsters. The hogs rush straight at Lee. He doesn't waste a second, his armor kicks on, ready for whatever's coming. He grabs their horns and smashes them straight into the ground. No matter what he did, the horns just wouldn't budge. That's why they're worth so much. He steps on the beast, holding it down, then jams his dagger deep into the ground. The armored blade sends out a blast that ripples through the air. It caught him off guard with how strong it was, and he instantly noticed what it could do. He just slices off their horns like it's nothing. He's kind of let down since they barely put up a fight. Lee grabs the and instantly thinks about how valuable they are, realizing these things could be used to craft some insane legendary gear. He already has a solid dagger, so he figures he'll just sell these and make some cash. After that, the system lets everyone know every monster's been wiped out. The gate is about to shut in 3 minutes. Back at his place, Lee just sits there, eyes glued to his phone after dropping a post about beating the level 30 dungeon. All the eyes on him start to get on his nerves. He starts thinking about how many level 32 gates might be popping up close by. Lets him know there are actually 2 in South Korea. Lee thinks could be holding out for the level 33 gate instead. He was already thinking about doing it too. Thinks this might end up being all about strategy, kind of like playing chess with your friends, where everyone's just trying to outsmart each other. Whoever hangs back too long is gonna get pushed when the other guy beats the level 32 gate first. That first win basically puts the pressure on, and the second guy has to hustle. Sung stood in front of the gate, facing off against 4 players, guys Lee had already taken out in another life. Isn't really sure if the drug will work on someone like Lee, who's just way too strong. Jin thinks people are hyping up Lee's strength way too much, but Sang tells him not to sleep on Lee. His power could actually be legit. Sung makes it clear he's not about to go up against Lee face to face. Lee knows he's strong, like seriously strong, over 1,000 and all that, but he still thinks these upgraded ogres could take him down. He breaks it down, saying the SA2 drug boosts a monster's stats by 20 times, but only for a day. He's totally sure his plan is going to work, so he just chills and waits for the ogres to take out Lee. Once that's done, he figures he'll just swoop in and grab Lee's stuff for himself. They walk through the gate. Out of nowhere, a bunch of black ogres show up. Sung yanks the pin out of an SA2 grenade, getting ready for whatever comes next. He grabs a smoke bomb and sends it rolling across the ground. The ogres breathe in the drug, and pretty much instantly it takes over. He was just sitting there, seeing them change right in front of him. Sung grins. He decided to hang back until the drug faded, then go pick up Lee's body. After that, he and his crew head out of the dungeon. Lee rolls up to the gate with Min, and instantly picks up on how weirdly quiet everything is. He figures out the enemies already hit the black ogres with the drug. He notices some footprints, and can't believe the top guild would mess up like this. Checks out the ogres and realizes they've been dosed with something. He thinks it's best to just hang back until whatever's messing with them fades away. Lee isn't backing down. Now that they've figured out where the monster's hiding, switching things up might tip off the enemy. He dumps every single bonus point into stamina, not leaving any for anything else. He lets Min know he should lay low now since the general guild already spotted him. Nods and just chills, keeping his phone close, waiting for Lee to hit him up. No one notices, but a tiny bug from the guild is recording everything. In the control room, the guild's crew keeps their eyes on Lei, making sure the camera stays focused right on the gate. Everyone thinks he won't make it past 3 hours. The leader wastes no time and tells someone to send an update straight to. The smell inside the dungeon hits Lee so hard he has to cover his nose. He crept forward, holding his dagger tight, barely making a sound. He notices the ground shaking under him as these black ogres roll up, all of them holding huge axes. They look way scarier than last time. Even though he tries to stay hidden, they still pick up on him. He notices right away that the drug has made their senses way sharper, so he gets ready to throw down. The ogre winds up and launches its axe through the air. Lee throws on his armor just in time and slips out of the way. He uses Petrify. He cuts right into the monster's leg. He grips his dagger tight and keeps stabbing the thing in the back until it finally stops moving, dropping to the ground. One more ogre comes in swinging hard. Lee puts up his armor to block it. He gets knocked backward from the hit. He knows just how strong it is. More ogres start charging in. The axes fly through the air, but he just stands there unfazed. He dodges without breaking a sweat. He noticed all their weapons just lying around everywhere. He looks at them and realizes they're pointless now. He reached over and picked up one of the axes. He chucks it straight at the chief ogre. He sliced straight through its neck. The body just drops to the ground. The pack totally loses it. Everyone's fired up and ready to go off. Lee grabs another axe, getting set to go again. He had to take them on one after another. He used his crazy strength. Lee grabs the ogre's arm and just breaks it fast. His arm just hung there, not doing anything. The creature lets out a loud roar, clearly hurting, and then starts swinging its other arm around. Lee moves quick, dodging out of the way and slamming down hard on its leg, taking it out. The beast hits the ground hard and Lee stands over it, catching his breath. He held off on finishing it so the gate would stay open a little longer. 9 dead ogres are sprawled out all around him. Even so, nobody can actually see the eye of God. Sung and the general guild started running through his mind. He decides to lure them into the dungeon. He throws the ogre heads out through the gate, then steps out himself. He started messing with the people he knew were secretly watching him. He thought their plan was pretty basic and honestly didn't work out at all. He tells them to hurry up, then heads back inside, waiting for them to show. Meanwhile, the guys in the control room are freaking out as they watch everything go down on the screens. The administrator reaches out too, letting him know that Lee got rid of the ogre heads. Sung clocks what's going on and tells them he needs something powerful enough to take Lee out for good. He finds out it's not finished yet. He tells them to take out the administrator. He announced that anyone he thought was useless wouldn't make it past today. He tells the squad to whip up something that can break through Lee's armor, and they've only got 3 hours to pull it off. Back in his office, smashed a poison enhancer in his hand, totally losing his cool. Back in the last timeline, the enhancer pretty much powered him up and helped him climb to the top. When his poison skill leveled up, he got known as the Poison King. With tech from the future, he managed to make some toxins that actually got through the monster's defenses. He still doesn't have anything strong enough to get through Lee's armor. He gets serious and tells his 4 guys to go after Lee and take him out in the next 2 hours. If someone catches them, they have to take themselves out so nobody can mess up the mission. Pauses for a second, not really sure if he should go for it. Sung, though, makes it clear messing this up isn't an option. He says if they pull this off, everyone's gonna remember them as heroes. He was right back in the dungeon. Suddenly, some new black ogres show up. An axe came flying his way, but Lee just like it was nothing. No matter how many he takes down, even more show up, and after a while the whole thing just gets boring for him. He throws a punch at one of them, dropping it right then and there. He just tunes everything else out and keeps it moving. Right then, a notification pops up in front of him, letting him know the dungeon's full. No one else is getting in now. Lee gives a quick smirk, realizing the main guild finally rolled in. Lee steps up, ready to take on the main guild players. Everyone freezes up for a second, feeling a cold jolt down their backs. Just stares, not really believing what's happening. Let everyone know they only had 2 hours left before Masters showed up with the new poison for Lee. Lee just watches them, noticing how they seriously don't look ready for this at all. Spots something that doesn't sit right with him. Lee's just standing there, not even a scratch on him. He tells everyone to get ready to fight, letting them know they just have to hold out for 2 hours. Just bolts, heart racing, trying to get out of there as fast as he can. Lee doesn't waste any time. He's already on the move before anyone else can react. He got right up close and finished it fast, breaking her neck in one move. Everyone just stops what they're doing when Lee says something. Taking her out fast was the kindest thing he could do. Tells his team to chill and keep it together. They thought if they could hold Lee back just a little longer, everyone in the guild would remember them as legends. Lee moves ahead. He grabs by the neck and triggers the eye of the reversal. He started looking back on his memories. Lee spots chugging an energy drink. He's got this poison booster that makes his toxins way more powerful. Playing the memory backwards, he sees Sung's crew talking about you. He started using boosters made from poison spiders, the kind that can take someone out in seconds. Lee wants answers, so he pushes to spill what's really going on. He tries to fight back, but Lee just locks in even harder. Out of breath, finally lets it out. This liquid can actually tweak poison so it lines up with whatever monster they're dealing with. Lee thinks the enhancer is actually pretty cool. He kept going deeper into the memory. Lee stares as Sung tells his team to whip up a poison that could actually break through his armor. Lee hears Sung getting annoyed about how slow things are going and just laughs to himself. He notices his armor still holding up, nothing getting through. He kept digging around looking for more clues. He remembers a time when he got told to back off from a gate because the General Guild had already called dibs. He said no, and then he wiped out every single one of them. Back then, the Eye of God was nowhere to be seen. Lee decides to try out that same move right now. He wants answers about why Sung hasn't shown up yet. Doesn't try to fight back, he just begs them to let him off. Lee realizes no one's going to answer him, so he just snaps the guy's neck. The black ogre grabs and starts hauling him off. Lee thinks to himself that at least nobody's going to bother him now. He was checking out the bodies of the ogres. Lee reaches into one of their stomachs and finds something hard inside. He picked up the skill stone called Eye of God, and now he can check out the stats and inventory of any player or monster that's a lower level than him. With the stone in his hand, Lee couldn't help but smirk, totally set to dive even further into the void. Inside the General Guild's meeting room, a video of Lei pops up on the big screen. Everyone in the game chat pretty much agreed there was nothing left to break down. Lee's skills were on another level, way out of reach for the rest of them. Someone else just can't believe he managed to take down those monsters after they got juiced up by the drug. Nobody was surprised, honestly. Even with that drug, monsters were still just monsters. The player points out that the fight's still going since the Black Ogre gate is wide open. When someone asks what's up with that, someone else points out that Lee isn't just chilling after grabbing the Eye of God. He's still on the hunt, waiting for his next target. Everyone in the room suddenly goes quiet when they figure out he's actually waiting for it to show up himself. Sung walks in and right away everyone calls him the boss. He grabs his head, seriously annoyed, and wants answers about where the enhancer went. One player drops to one knee, signaling to the squad that it's time to fall back. He lets everyone know that the project's done, but the finished version won't be ready for another 3 days. Knows that if Lee picks up the special class skill from that level 51 golem gate, taking him down later is basically impossible. The player lets him know they're ready to do whatever it takes to shut it down, even if it means risking everything. Sung checks if everyone's sure that Lee's only got 3 days left. The player just nods, totally sure of himself. Sung holds the guy's head steady and finishes him off with poison. He made it clear he wasn't putting up with anyone messing things up. He sets up tight security around the whole lab and even on his way to work. He tells every guild player to stay on guard duty. They're planning to take Lee out in the level 51 golem dungeon and grab all his stuff. Inside the gate, things were picking up. Lee starts to get the feeling that probably isn't showing up. The enhancer still isn't ready to go yet. He thinks about just destroying the whole guild headquarters, but he figures it's smarter to just take out. He figured if he used the guild's pull, things would work out way better for what he had in mind. He remembers from his last life that the squad's next move is going after the level 51 silver armor dungeon. This one's got a rare skill. He's already on to what's up to trying to grab the skill and score an even better enhancer. He was locked in, ready to do whatever it took to shut him down. Lee slips into stealth mode and heads out through the gate, fully aware the guild is still watching his every move. He steps outside and spots waiting for him. He lets everyone know the enhancer factory is actually in. He tapped into the Eye of God. Lee scrolled through Min's stats on his screen, noticing a few things that could be risky, so he shot him a heads up to keep it chill. He warned that just getting too close could actually be risky. Min always figured Lee would end up with the Eye of God, but actually seeing it happen right in front of him threw him off. He shows everyone where the factory is, making sure they know the exact spot. He flexes the car he picked up after selling that ogre horn, showing everyone what the cash really got him. They started making their way to. Lee dumps all his 2,000 plus bonus points straight into concentration, locking in on getting his focus maxed out. He bumped it up to $2,786. He figures that if he really locks in, the Eye of God gets sharper, making it way easier to spot his opponent's stats and weak points. He still can't really handle how strong he is. Staying locked in really matters. The system notices how far he's come. Everyone started calling him the King of Concentration. At the Poison Enhancer factory out in, Lee and Min hop out of the car. Lee didn't waste any time. He hit his friend with Paralyze, a move he picked up after stacking 1,000 concentration points. It shuts down one of the other guy's senses for 5 seconds if they're a lower level. The system pops up and lets Lee pick which sense he wants to turn off. He goes for vision. Started losing his sight, so Lee told him to hang back outside. Lee slams his fist into the factory wall, putting all his strength into it. The whole building started vibrating. Inside, the tech guys totally freak out, convinced the whole place is shaking from an earthquake. As soon as someone notices Lee and lets the squad know, everything goes wild. He gets mad when he realizes isn't around. Lee slams his fist into the wall one more time. He just kept wrecking stuff. Outside, Min stands there staring at the building as it shakes. He can't really process what's happening. It's like his brain just glitched for a second. He noticed a security camera up in the corner. Lee looks right at it and lets it know their enhancers won't last much longer. They're about to get wiped out. He points at the pillar, basically letting everyone know that when it goes down, it's game over. He brings up a trade, letting it slip that he's after something has. He grabs the camera and smashes it, totally wrecking it. The next morning, Lee just chills on the broken concrete, waiting around when shows up. With the Eye of God active, Lee checks out his own stats, clocks what's happening and just starts cussing him out. Lee notices his poison skill kicking in. He could basically take someone out almost every time with odds stacked way in his favor. Like 8 out of 10 times it was game over. Straight up calls him out for being scared. Lee just points out that without him stepping in, things probably wouldn't be going this smoothly. Sung wasn't making it out of the Black Ogre dungeon alive. Lee thinks that whoever comes out on top is the real deal, and everyone sees who's actually scared. Comes in strong, launching a poison attack. Lee dodges out of the way and gets right up close. Can't believe how fast he moves. He reached out and caught him by the neck. Lee tanks the poison thanks to his armor. He notices that it would take someone with way more power to break through it. He activated the Eye of Reversal. Lee checks out's memories. He started showing what he could really do, finding new gear and finally tracking down the last secret dungeon. Sung just bursts out laughing out of nowhere, and Lee barely has time to process what's happening. He launches the poison right at Min. The hit lands and suddenly he's infected. Lee, locked in and furious, takes down with just one punch. He grabbed the poison skill stone off the body. He bolts over to where his friend is. He starts getting better after taking it in. Lee calls out for getting way too close. Min wanted to know if the poison skill was his now, and Lee gave him the nod. Min was honestly grateful for it. Lee just brushes it off and tells him to get ready for whatever gates show up next. They're gonna need whatever gear comes out of those. That day, who used to be the guy everyone in Korea was scared of died. The next day, news everywhere in Korea went wild about it. The country's biggest criminal was found dead, and even top guild officials were getting arrested left and right. Nobody really knows who took down the underground boss, so reporters start asking around, trying to figure it out. Lee scrolls through the news on his phone while brings up telling everyone what really happened. But with everyone online hyping up Sung's killer like he's some kind of legend, Lee isn't having it. He's not about to let the truth out. He points out that anyone chasing clout always ends up going out sad, in a place where everyone's grinding for power. Letting people know who he was would be risky. A lot of folks out there would want his abilities or try to get their hands on tech like his. He's got this poison booster that could actually take him out. He says that once it's all over, he's planning to set up his own monument so everyone knows what he's done. He spotted a comment asking what happened to the Poison King's missing poison. He thinks about how once someone's gone, people really just care about what they could do and what they left behind. He looks ahead, already thinking about what they should do next. There's a special class skill tucked away in that level 50 silver armor dungeon. According to the records, it's called Assassin. He doesn't really get how strong it is, but he's convinced that just sticking to what he did before, move for move, is the quickest way forward. His screen flashes with a system alert. His bonus points just keep climbing. It's probably because he picked up a bunch of new info from the main guild. Since he was the only one who didn't get reset, his progress started looking just like the main quest in a game. He's ready to grab all the important stuff and level up quick, isn't wasting any time. Now that he's got poison skill and a stash of enhancers, he's actually able to keep up with him out there hunting. Even if taking out the factory meant they'd get less stuff, he knew it was the move they had to make. Tells Lee he should go with the name Joker for his game account, since that name used to be legendary back in the day. Lee was down for it and told him to get to level 34 before their next dungeon run. By January 29th, knocks out the level 34 Blue Pheasant dungeon, while Lee pushes ahead to level 37. People start noticing how fast they're leveling up, and social media goes off with rumors. Some guys even think Joker could be helping Lee behind the scenes. Some people keep saying the legendary Lee never really hangs out with anyone. That night, Lee just chills against the wall. He got on a call with, hyped up about how strong the enhancers are. He's been tearing through monsters easy with his poison. He's thinking he'll just do one more round before crashing for the night. Lee, though, tells him not to get cocky and reminds him to hit him up once he's done. After he hangs up, Lee realizes it's already been almost a month since everything started over. He kept going non-stop, moving forward way faster than anyone expected. He pulled up his status screen. He dumps every bonus point into agility, not even thinking twice about it. He leveled up and got called the King of Agility, plus he unlocked a fresh new skill. He could mess with gravity. He tried it out on a tree to see how it worked. He cranks the weight up to 100 tons. He tries to set it higher, but the system shuts him down and drops it back to 2 tons. The tree just gives out and crashes to the ground. He gets this rush like he's totally in control. A warning pops up on the screen, telling him what he does next could change everything down the road. Out of nowhere, his phone starts buzzing. Suddenly freaks out and his voice cuts through everything. Out of nowhere, he started yelling about a level 100 Lycan showing up. The call suddenly cuts out. Right then, Lee gets it. The system's warning was all about this moment. He sprints straight for Skate, realizing all the changes he's made are finally kicking off now. Is down on the ground right outside the level 38 gate, hurt bad and barely able to catch his breath. Lee pulls up and right away wants to know what went down. Lets everyone know there's a level 100 monster in there. Lee couldn't figure out how a monster like that ended up in a gate meant for level 38. While trying to make sense of it, he glanced down and spotted a nasty cut on his arm. Owns up that the attack didn't even land on him, just the wind from it ripped up his skin. He started to think the dungeon might have something just as powerful hidden inside. Lee heads for the gate. Wants him to quit it, but Lee doesn't listen and just walks right in. Inside the dungeon, Lee spots snakes slithering around, their tails lit up with fire. He thought they were the biggest problem standing in the gate's way. He stomps down and smashes one flat. It just swings its whole body and knocks out everyone left standing. Everything goes quiet after that, and he starts wondering if Min was actually telling the truth. Out of nowhere, a deep growl cuts through the silence. A giant Lycan shows up, holding a scythe and turning on the Eye of God. Lee checks it out and sees it's a level 100 Lycan. This all happened because of some butterfly effect stuff. The messed up future is here now. The Lycan swings its scythe, coming right at them. Lee moves fast, slipping out of the way and hitting back hard, every move on point. He whips the creature right across the face using the serpent's body. The beast barely reacts. When it pops off with its execute move, Lee dodges once more and quickly gets up close. He flicks its head and slams it straight to the ground like it's nothing. He goes all in, landing hit after hit, until the monster finally drops and stops moving. His screen gets spammed with level up alerts. His level shot up to 62. He notices this broadsword sitting there with the rest of the loot. Its power was insane, but you couldn't even touch it unless you hit level 100. He gets annoyed, shoves it aside, and just wraps up the carving. He spotted the creature right before heading out of the dungeon. He steps outside and just stands there stunned. News everywhere is blowing up. Lycans aren't just showing up here, they're popping up all over the world from New York to Tokyo and way past that. The president of the World Player Association is pushing for everyone to come together. But Boward, who's America's #1 player, thinks this whole situation is just unreal and way over everyone's head. Lee watched everything go down and finally owned up it was all on him. What he did ended up changing everything. The showed up in this world because of it. The president lets everyone know that no new gates are popping up until the top monsters get taken down. Lee figures out that the level 39 gates are still shut tight. Chills out for a second, finally catching a break. Lee gets it, this is just slowing them down. He steps back from the screen and lays out what they're gonna do next. They're on their way to the airport, bags packed and ready. Japan's the spot they're flying to, and that's where the Lycans are waiting for them. Lee and Min pulled up to the airport, both rocking masks over their faces. The receptionist lets them know that every flight to Japan just got cancelled because of the Lycan outbreak. Min tells them he's already checked with every airline and got the same response each time. The receptionist, not really getting why they keep pushing, looks a bit thrown off. He tells them to get out right now, saying not even the president could change the rules. If they go, it's basically game over for them. Leans in and tells Lee he should take off his mask. The airport's pretty much empty, so Lee just takes it off. As soon as he walks in, the receptionist spots him right away. Lee says he has to head to Japan to take out the Lycan. The guy pauses for a second, then admits this is risky even for him. Lee just lets out a sigh, not really surprised. He grabs this broadsword and gets ready. He tries to gear up with it, but when it doesn't work, he just lets it go. The receptionist just freezes for a second, realizing Lee was actually talking about the World Player Association's private jet. He wanted a plane that was actually comfortable. Japan's government and the association backed him up and made it happen. Lee and Min hopped on a fancy flight and took off, ready for whatever was coming next. The trip starts off chill, but that vibe disappears fast when who's deep into research starts breaking down just how insane the Lycan's defense really is. Lee doesn't let her finish and just says he needs a break. She keeps saying she's doing all this for everyone else. Lee gets annoyed and just ignores her. She's caught off guard, realizing that no guy's ever just brushed her off like this before. He remembers that there are hundreds of people out in Japan right now, all dealing with the Lycan too. He wants to know how to make her stop talking, but she's not having it. She straight up refuses and lets him know everything's on him, like the future of everyone is in his hands. Lee hears what she says and honestly it just annoys him. He decides he's done, not wanting to fight anymore. She just stood there totally blank, not even able to get a word out. The captain signals for her to head up to the cockpit. Lee finally just chills out. Not long after, comes back, looking like something big just happened. The started calling in monsters from different dungeons, sending them out to wreck cities. Once the plane touches down, they get ready to go their separate ways. Pulls in for a tight hug, acting like he's got nobody else in the world. Lee sits there thinking things over, totally clueless that he's actually a player. Lets them know she's not done yet, she's got plans to see them again. He tells Lee to go straight to the Tokyo Hotel, the one that's right in the middle of all those tall buildings. Lee gives a quick nod, then heads out with, "Can't help but wish they could have stuck around a little longer." They finally pull up to a gate, glowing with this weird gray light. Lee checks it out and quickly figures out the Lycan has been at it again, causing even more chaos. The wreck city proved that NAMI's info was spot on. The keeps opening gates and monsters just keep pouring out non-stop. Lets everyone know that the Japanese players are keeping an eye on the situation, just waiting for the perfect moment to make their move. He says he can call them, but Lee shakes his head and gestures toward the gate, wanting to take care of it himself. Fire serpents start showing up, and Lee can't help but wonder why nobody around here has done anything to get rid of them. Tells everyone the gate popped open ahead of schedule, and it's basically their fault. Lee figures out that with the monsters still around, the gate isn't going anywhere. He tells Min to drop poison up front, planning to take care of everything else himself. While they're throwing hands, Lee starts racking up bonus points from the butterfly effect, but it leaves him feeling a bit off. He remembered the time it dropped a level 100 boss right in a level 38 dungeon, totally wild. Spots the Lycan moving their way and lets everyone know it's coming straight for them. Lee stops for a second, caught off guard, trying to figure out why this thing showed up. Pulls up a live video and lets Lee watch the in real time. The creature suddenly lets loose a massive energy blast, aiming it straight at the guy behind the camera. The guy yells out for someone to help him, but then everything just goes dark. A few minutes later, everyone's phones light up with an emergency alert. It's all over the place, telling every player to get ready. The message basically says things are about to go downhill fast, and even the US is thinking about dropping nukes. People in the city are freaking out, asking the heroes to step up and save them. Lee just gets annoyed, thinking it's wild they'd even think about dropping a nuke on something he could handle without breaking a sweat. The camera cuts over to the battlefield where everyone's fighting hard against Lee and its crew. Players are dodging attacks and trying to hold their ground, but you can tell it's rough out there. Bullets start flying everywhere, mixed with blasts of magic shooting through the air. The beast just brushes off their attacks and comes back swinging with some serious lethal hits. Everyone's yelling out what to do, but nothing's working. He quietly thinks to himself that if he was just level 60, everything could have played out another way. He suddenly gets it: if the Lycan manages to break out, the whole country's done for. Lee was hanging out when Min came over and let him know the Lycan wasn't moving the way it did before. Now it's moving straight toward the nuclear power plant, and there's less than an hour before things go south. Lee grits his teeth, throws some shade at the beast in his head, and gets ready to make his move. He dumps all 1,545 bonus points straight into strength, maxing it out without a second thought. Now he had 5,852 in total. As the group charges ahead, he wonders who used to be the strongest out there. Thinks back to Boward, the guy from the States. At level 658, he had around 1,500 strength. Lee steps in and shuts him down, pointing out that those stats don't matter anymore since everything's different now. The group finally gets to the battlefield, and right away it's obvious everyone out there is running on fumes. The players are struggling just to stay on their feet, barely managing to keep things from falling apart. Explosions go off everywhere, shaking the ground. Lee looks around, taking in all the chaos, and just thinks to himself how everything's totally wrecked. Notices the nuclear plant isn't far away, and he realizes pretty much every player in Japan has pulled up here. Lee wonders if those top Japanese players, the ones who actually finished the final dungeon, are here right now. He just brushes it off, saying they probably bylaid. Shares that Japan's rep disappeared right after the reset. Lee just brushes everyone off, thinking none of them are worth his time. One of the players spots them and yells out, but since they don't understand the language, they're just left standing there, not sure what's going on. Lee cracks a joke, saying maybe he just wanted to know what's for lunch. Lets out a weak laugh, not really into it but trying to play along. They started laughing, his voice echoing around the whole battlefield, just messing with everyone. Lee thinks it's pretty smart how it messes with them. He tells Min to go help the rest of the crew, while he steps up to take on the beast himself. Lee climbs up the side of a skyscraper, stopping for a second to check out the chaos happening down below. All across the rooftops, hundreds of players are posted up, launching attacks that streak through the night and light everything up. Fireballs, arrows, and lightning came pouring down, making the whole city shake. He remembered moments just like these. He crashed through buildings, sending players running everywhere. The leader steps up and gets everyone fired up. He lifted a fireball way up, signaling everyone to jump in and attack at the same time. The blast goes off and suddenly, a heavy wave of attacks rains down, hitting the Lycan so hard he drops to one knee. Everyone goes wild, thinking they've pretty much got this win in the bag. The creature isn't done yet. It gets up, looking way more pissed off, and the Lycan grabs its sword, getting ready to swing it in a huge arc straight at the skyscrapers. The players instantly know they're done for. As soon as they see what's coming, it's clear this attack is about to wipe them out, and you can tell they're not even trying to hide how hopeless it feels. Up high, Lee just watches everything get wrecked below him. He knows this is his moment to step up. Lee goes all in and hits them with Petrify. He used his skill on the Lycan, locking it down so it couldn't move at all. The players just stand there, not really believing what they're seeing, but they all know exactly what that move is. Some guy quietly guesses it's probably Petrify, but another dude's sure the King of Strength isn't showing up here. Lee jumps right off the skyscraper, not even hesitating. He drops down right in front of the frozen beast and gives its head a quick tap. Right away, the Lycan just drops dead. His level jumps up a bunch in one go. The players go wild, celebrating hard. Everyone started calling him their hero and even their king. He has no idea what they're saying. Lee just figures everyone's hyping him up. He grabs his dagger and checks the body for anything useful. He spots this glowing mana stone sitting there and it's level 100. He picks it up and remembers how everyone used to swap out coal for mana stones. How much they were worth depended on how strong the monster was. He goes to grab this broadsword, but it just disappears straight into his inventory. He gets a pop-up on his screen, letting him know he can't use it until he hits level 100. Watch from a distance and realize the dude's confidence actually made sense. Lee tells her to get the jet prepped, letting her know he's got the Lycan problem in the US covered too. She tells him it already got blown up by a missile out in the desert. Lee just takes it in and nods, not surprised. He realized they could pull it off because they had so much land to work with. Mentioned that both the Emperor and the Prime Minister of Japan wanted to thank him for what he did. He shrugs it off and locks in on. He checked out the other players using the Eye of God. When he shows up at the airport, there's already a huge crowd waiting just to see him. Reporters crowd around, trying to find out if he's planning to take on more monsters down the line. Lee says it all comes down to how the country treats him. He remembers Japan being pretty chill with him, but deep down, he knows he's not exactly the nicest guy out there. He remembered that way more people tuned in to watch his fight than even bothered with the Prime Minister's speech. After talking for a bit, he made up his mind to go for it. Min just pops up out of nowhere, moving quiet and so no one even notices him. Tries to get Lee's attention, letting him know the president of Korea is pulling up. But Lee just keeps it cool, basically telling her to let the guy know he's got stuff going on and will catch him later. He heads out, thinking about how this new dungeon is about to drop soon. He's sitting at level 71 now. Back then, he noticed it showed up once his stats hit 4,000. He's stacked up over 15,000 points now, but the gate still isn't opening. He's starting to think maybe he has to spend every bonus point before anything happens. He put all the points into strength and watched the number climb up to 8,757. The system popped up, letting everyone know a special dungeon just unlocked. Lee couldn't help but grin. Turns out he called it. The butterfly effect skills set off what happened next. Nobody really knows where the gate is yet, and as soon as someone finds it, there's only 30 seconds before it shuts. He kept hearing call out to him non-stop. Lee dropped his stealth mode and popped back into view. Right away, he wanted to know where the president was. He was chilling in the VIP room. The president steps up, gives him a solid welcome, and shows real gratitude for repping the country. He points out that things with Japan got better thanks to him. Lee shows respect for that. The president owns up, saying he probably did the same thing last time too. He feels bad for not saying thanks earlier and lets it show. Lee just tells him not to worry about it. Then the president drops some news about giving him an even bigger title, way above the usual national merit stuff. Lee shakes his head and mentions he's got something he wants to ask. He thinks about telling everyone what's really going on with the special gates, but he holds back. He's worried that if people find out, they'll start messing things up. He says a golden gate just showed up out of nowhere. The president just freezes for a second, barely believing what he heard, and insists someone double-checks it. Lee just keeps it real and says it's true, letting everyone know there's a monster inside that's even tougher than the lichen. He mentions that once someone spots the gate, it shuts in about 30 seconds, so you have to find it fast. The president jumps on it right away, telling everyone to get moving and backing it up with all the help they need. Lee knows he's been straight up. He hasn't said anything but the truth. He keeps quiet about what he got from the dungeon. He was done just letting the government handle everything, so he asked the president to keep things low-key and not tell anyone about it. Lee stands next to the president in the control room at the National Crisis Management Office. The president thinks that if Lee's telling the truth, the Golden Gate might end up being a huge problem for Korea, kind of like how the lichen totally messed things up for Japan. Lee lets him know that based on what he's seen before, the monster inside is going to be way tougher. The country got put on high alert, and cameras everywhere started scanning for anyone suspicious. Leads the National Crisis Management team, and he's starting to get worried. He started thinking if the gate's about to shut in half a minute, and there's about to be an even tougher monster than the lichen, wouldn't it make more sense to have someone else handle it? Lee won't let anyone else go in first. He's set on being the one to step inside because the Golden Gate isn't just hiding some random beast. There's something seriously strong waiting behind it. These also drop rare rewards called special skills and items, which can't even wrap his head around. Over 100 players in the control room had already gone back in time, but not one of them had ever run into a dungeon like this before. Lee knows this is the reason he held back from talking, but he's not about to fake anything. It's up to them if they want to trust him or not. Looks over at the president. Some people started saying Lee was basically trying to take over everything. If he kept the search on the down low, he could scoop up all the rewards for himself. He ended up way too strong, almost like a weapon nobody could handle. The president looks around, wanting to know what everyone thinks. Wants to keep Lee out of the dungeons and have government players handle it instead. Lee thinks back and kind of regrets taking out the lichen so fast. He grabs this broadsword and gets ready. He tries to pick it up, but it just falls straight to the ground because he still can't use it yet. He notices that Korea actually has its own type of lichen. Letting it live might have shown them just how tough things can get out there. It's a place where players are always grinding, battling non-stop just to stay alive and get stronger. Lee spots the sword and just stares at it for a second, then looks straight at, wanting to know what's up with it. Guys fighting to take over everything isn't rare. It just comes naturally and everyone wants to be on top. He wonders if wanting to get stronger is actually bad. Just keeps quiet. Lee looks over at the president, waiting for his decision. The president just nods and basically says that if the dungeon isn't owned by the government, they can't really stop anyone from going in. Monopolization is just one thing players can do. Lee wonders if that means he can just jump into the special dungeon whenever he wants. He didn't get anything at all after taking out the lichen back in Korea. The president nods, showing he's on board. Lee steps up and claims the special gate for himself, saying he's taking it as his reward. He calls dibs on every future one too. After that, he goes straight to demanding that gets kicked out. People were saying was supposed to back up the strong moves, since he was the guy in charge when things got wild. He wasn't scared at all. The president just told everyone to chill out. Lee just doubles down, calling out for having such a weak mindset. As everyone kept talking, satellites locked onto the location of the special gate. Got sent out, later sitting in the car. Lee always noticed that people only paid attention when he did something wild. Min knew it too. Every time Lee started talking, everyone got quiet real fast. Lee can't figure out why nobody ever pays attention the first time he says something. The gate sits over in right by the beach, tells him to watch his back and not let his guard down. He still thinks he's untouchable. Lee nods, and as they get to the forest, he spots the gate up ahead. It's giving off this soft glow just enough to catch his eye. The dungeon's labeled as level A, but both of them think that's way too low. Out of nowhere, a system message pops up, letting everyone know that Lee is the one who made the special gate. He finds out that other people might get special skills too and could end up passing him. He knew all the players were about to see that message. Lee gets ready to step in right as the 30-second timer starts ticking down. Inside, everything goes red for him. Everything got locked down. He couldn't use any skills or items and all his stats were capped. He gets thrown off when a red goblin suddenly pops up. He watched the clueless human and couldn't help but laugh to himself, thinking how lost they looked. Standing there was the dungeon guardian, clocked in at level 200. Lee tries to use the Eye of God, but nothing happens. The goblin lets him know there's nothing to stress about, hinting that this isn't the real fight he should be worrying about. This dungeon isn't about battling monsters at all. It's got a whole different purpose. Something inside pushes him to give it his all, wanting to see just how far he can actually go. Turns out Lee's already kind of a big deal in their world. He just stands there, not saying anything, trying to figure out why everyone knows him. Lee looks over at the red goblin, wondering if the guy actually thinks all this is fun for him. The goblin totally freaks out and looks like he's about to lose it, trying to get him to chill out and stop. Lee just thinks the whole talk is a waste of time. Out of nowhere, a system message pops up on the screen. Turns out, this level 2 special dungeon isn't about taking down monsters. The message tells him he has to pick one attribute to get through the dungeon. Lee goes with strength, figuring he has no clue what's really happening, so he might as well take a shot in the dark. The goblin lets him know that if he goes for strength, things are about to get way tougher. Lee tells him to keep it down. He grabs him by the neck and wants answers, pressing to find out who the real enemy is. He catches a fresh notification popping up. Lee suddenly finds himself dropped in the middle of a huge desert, staring up at this super tall tower that just dominates the whole place. The system tells him he's gotta grab the stat rune sitting up top. He figures the rune probably boosts his stats and starts wishing he'd just taken out the goblin instead of letting it go. Upstairs, there's this spiral staircase twisting up to the next floor. A countdown pops up on the screen, 18 hours left until he dies. He starts freaking out, thinking about what it'd be like to die without his stats or skills. He starts climbing and out of nowhere, arrows just fire straight from his head. Some hidden traps barely scraped his cheek. Not long after, a huge boulder comes crashing down the stairs. He had no choice but to back off. He figures out that being strong doesn't help in this spot, and kind of regrets his decision, but he still pushes forward. He's wiped out, so he ducks behind some huge rocks at the bottom of the tower, trying to catch his breath without getting spotted. He's out of breath, and for the first time, everything about him just feels normal, straight up human. Getting back up there looks impossible, but the timer's still got 16 hours counting down. He props himself up against the wall. He spots how the stone bricks are packed super tight together, and suddenly a new plan pops into his head. He's just here for the rune. Climbing isn't even on his radar right now. He thought maybe if he took down the tower, it could actually do the trick. He picks up this huge rock and just launches it straight at the wall. Cracks run through the stones and the whole thing starts falling apart. In just a few seconds, the whole tower comes crashing down. Lee's eyes catch something glowing in the middle of all the broken stuff. It's a rune, kind of just chilling there, lighting up the mess around it. This is the strength stat rune. He got 2,000 points. He relaxes as soon as he grabs it and takes it down. The system let him know he'd finished the dungeon, then started sending him back. When he pops back up, the red goblin just stands there, totally stunned. He starts freaking out, yelling that Lee wrecked the whole tower and the rune wasn't even supposed to go to him. Shaking, he's basically begging Lee not to take him out. Lee just steps up and takes the guy out. A last pop-up shows up, letting him know the dungeon's done and the gate's shutting down in 3 minutes. Lee chills on his couch, realizing that it's not just one, but a couple of these wild gates popping up. Now someone else gets a shot at breaking 1,000 points in one of their stats. Somebody already made it that far without even hitting level 300. Some of Lee's stats are still sitting under 1,000. He's not about to lose his crown or anything, but he knows he's got to step up. He pulls up his stats and drops 1,400 points into both mana and stamina. Now his mana's at 1853 and stamina jumps up to 1990. He just unlocked 2 new achievements from the system, King of Mana and King of Stamina. Each one dropped a fresh skill for him. Mana restriction basically shuts down mana around it for 5 seconds, so enemies can't use any magic. At the same time, blood flow kicks up the blood speed in enemies, which means attacks hit way harder. He chills out the moment he figures out he can tweak his stats however he wants. Out of nowhere, a system alert pops up on his screen, letting him know that what he just did is messing with how things are supposed to play out. He scrunches his face, not really sure what's going on. Over at the World Player Association's US branch, everyone's talking about the new achievement, and honestly nobody doubts it. Only Lee could have pulled that off. Someone brings up, but she just shrugs it off and says it's cool if it was him. Some people bring up how Lee used to brush them off and even throw shade when they asked for something. Everyone who actually knows him gets where he's coming from. Hyla always has his back, reminding people he's not the bad guy they think he is. Everyone finds out Lee is the one who built the special gate, so now anyone can jump in, pick up new skills, and actually catch up to him. People start getting worried about what could happen if someone this wild is the one in charge. Hyla keeps saying he's not a threat or anything, just kinda hard to predict. The group turns to her, wanting to hear what her own gate run was like. She tells him there weren't any monsters around, just this tall tower with a weird rune sitting right at the top. She followed this red goblin through the place, and honestly, if he hadn't been there, she wouldn't have made it out alive. After she swallowed the rune, her mana shot up by 2,000. When they find out, it really hits them how much Lei's done, way more than they thought. People are saying he could have already finished off a bunch of those special gates. The group decides that the association needs to take charge of whatever gates show up next. The group tells Hyla to head over to Korea and keep an eye on the latest updates. She gets that everyone basically expects her to outdo Lee. She doesn't really want to do it, but at the same time, Min lets Lee know that the association says it's all about helping everyone. It basically runs like a guild, only the top players get in. Guys who go after clout instead of cash. They basically stepped in like the world's army. The association is in charge of who gets into dungeons, and they get their money from the government. Lee gets that these people have a lot of pull, but he also knows there's some shady stuff going on behind the scenes. He wants to know who managed to beat the United States gate. Lets him know it was the one everybody calls the witch. She's got this thing where she can mess with mana, boosting herself or messing with others. Back in the day, she was known as the King of Mana. She just picked up 2,000 mana from the tower, and now she's coming back for his spot. If she could open up more gates, she might actually keep up with him. Word started getting around about what she could do. Right then, Lee's phone buzzed with an emergency alert on the screen. A level 220 gargoyle just showed up in. Everyone gets told to clear out since there's a national emergency now. That creature shows up, a human-shaped thing but definitely not normal. Dragon wings and fire breath is out here tearing up everything around him. Lee headed to the scene, talking to the president on the way. The president is desperate, reaching out for help because 3 gargoyles just trashed Tech Valley. Even the big tech company HQs were in the mix. Lee lets him know he's already heading over and tells the president to get everyone out of there. The president's cool with it, but he points out that people are already talking. Most people think Lee's the one who made those weird gates appear and started all the chaos. Lee just laughs it off, saying he's no god or anything. He points out that the same person who made the system is the one behind all these monsters too. The president nods, but points out that now everyone thinks Lee calls up monsters just to level up. Lee kind of agrees and says there's something to it, but he points out that if he actually had that kind of power, those things would popped up in front of his place already. The president gets where he's coming from, lets him know everyone's been cleared out, and tells him to stay safe. Lee lets him know that if he goes after the gargoyles, he wants the heads up whenever a new special gate pops up. The president checks if that's what Lee needs to jump into the fight. Lee explains that it's gotta be done, and the president's on board with it. Lee hangs up the phone when they're almost at the spot. He pulls over and tells Min they're walking from here. Min notices someone up ahead and tries to figure out who it is. Lee glances around and remembers that the president was the one who should cleared this place out. He calls out and the woman hears him and answers back. He turns on the Eye of God and checks her stats, instantly knowing it's Hyla. She calls him Brother Lee with a big smile, and he honestly didn't see that coming. He reaches out and takes her hand, just wanting to make sure about something. He taps into the Eye of Reversal and starts seeing her memories play out. He spots the red goblin backing her up in the special dungeon, pushing her to get stronger so she can take him out. Lee looked at the creature totally grossed out. He thought it was straight up pathetic and made up his mind right then he was gonna track down whoever was behind making this game. He starts digging into her memories, searching for anything about what went down in the final dungeon. He saw her hurt, but she still wanted him to keep playing. He wants to know who messed with her, but she pulls back and uses her mana to keep him out. He's impressed watching her pull that off, so he just drops it and wonders what brought her here. Hyla comes clean, she actually showed up just to see him. Min lets Lee know he shouldn't put his trust in her. She looks over at Min and starts messing with him, acting like she just found out Lee had a friend who's actually pretty chill. Lee pushes her for a response, really wanting to know what she's thinking. Hyla grins, showing he still wants her around, same as always. Lee calls her out, wanting her to back it up. She wonders if she can pull it off this time, For him, the tension hanging in the air feels like something he's been through before. Suddenly, something slams down with a loud noise and totally breaks their focus. Suddenly, 3 gargoyles showed up. Lee wants to know if they've got any weak spots, but straight up has no clue. A gargoyle suddenly breaks out of the pack and rushes straight ahead. Lee doesn't waste any time. He grabs her and Minsu and moves them off to the side. The creature lifts off the ground, wings spreading as it heads into the sky. Lee locks in and starts using gravity control. He cranked the weight up to 2 tons, expecting something wild, but absolutely nothing went down. At 3 tons, it lets out a heavy sound. The thing weighing 4 tons comes slamming down. Lee jumps up and grabs the creature by the neck, holding on tight. He hammers it down hard, it screams, blasting through the air. And stand there just watching as a cloud of dust from the crash covers everything, making it impossible to see what actually happened. The gargoyle climbs out from under the broken chunks of stone. Couldn't believe what she just saw, catching her breath as she tried to process it. Meanwhile, started calling out for Lee, not really sure where he even was. Lee comes out from behind the pile of rubble, catching his breath. He knows he barely made it out alive. He hits the gargoyle with Petrify, freezing it right where it stands. He drives the blade straight into its neck. He gets his blood moving. The whole thing just fell apart. Suddenly gets it, this is actually happening. Lee just took out the gargoyle. Now he's checking his stats to see what changed. Lee watches his levels shoot up from 71 all the way to 93. He looks over at the last 2 gargoyles still standing. One of them blasts out fire, but Lee's quick on his feet and dodges just in time. The heat slides by Min, and he can't help but notice how strong it is. Hyla can't just watch anymore, so he jumps in and powers everyone up. Lee's strength just shot up by 200. Lee watches her, kind of entertained by how hard she's trying. Min lets everyone know that the gargoyles are back and causing trouble again. Lee throws on his armor, locking himself in and getting ready for whatever's about to go down. The system pops up, letting him know his skills just leveled up thanks to all that focused mana. He jumps up, grabs both gargoyles by the neck, and just smashes them straight into the ground. He wipes them out on the spot. His level goes up again. His eyes stay glued to his hands, red and stained, not really able to process what he's seeing. He didn't expect to be that strong. Hyla points out that she's had his back like this in the past, always showing up when he needs it. He watches her frown when he asks what's up, and she just calls him out for always acting the same. Before he even gets a word out, his phone lights up, the president's calling. Everyone started showing Lee a ton of respect for saving the country. Lee figured the guy must seen the whole thing go down in real time. The president nods, making it official. Lee tells him to send out the special gate locations through the crisis management team. All 3 of them suddenly get hit with a system pop-up. A new special gate just popped up and the president's already on it, letting everyone know what's going down. Lee's eyebrows scrunch up as he tries to figure out why the system didn't give him any heads up. He starts thinking that maybe the god running things is just messing with him, either trying to push him to his limit or straight up wipe him out. Hyla checks out the message and says what it says. Turns out the gate popped up because Lee's strength is on another level now. Dude's already hit level 117. She finds out the place is in and tells him she wants to come along. She says she won't get in his way. Lee wonders why she even wants to tag along. Hyla basically showed up in Korea just for him and isn't listening to anything the World Player Association says. She stands her ground, making it clear she's in control of her own life. Lee just nods, not arguing with her choice. She could only stick around if she promised to spill everything she found out. She tells herself she'd do whatever it takes for him, no questions asked. Notices that her buffs are actually coming in clutch, but he can't help wondering what she's really after. Lets him know it's all on Lee now. He's got to step up, finish the game, and save everyone. Min isn't really buying what she's saying, but she keeps pushing that it's something personal. She even brings up something Lee said before, just to remind him. People used to say gamers would be in charge once the game was over. Lee honestly couldn't remember much about it, and she just smiled at him. Those words stick with her and push her forward. Lee just shakes his head, starting to wonder if he accidentally set off something risky. He can't help but crack a small smile while they walk back to the car together. Lee and are posted up right in front of the special dungeon gate, checking it out and getting ready for whatever's waiting inside. This dungeon's level 3, only 2 people can go in, and it's ranked A+ for how tough it is. Lee picks up on something different and moves in. Thinks about jumping in too, but he just signals her not to. He tells her it might not be safe, but she gives him the nod and stays back, keeping an eye on him as he heads in by himself. There's a red goblin chilling inside. As soon as it spots Lee, it totally clocks who he is and starts getting all jumpy. Lee picks up on something off and wants to figure out what's being kept from him. The goblin freezes for a second, and Lee just goes ahead and uses his Eye of God skill. The monster finally showed what it could really do, level 300, every single stat maxed out at 3000. He grabs the goblin's head and makes it talk, not letting up until he gets answers. The goblin started freaking out and ended up spilling the real reason they were all there. The whole point of this dungeon was to stop monsters from coming up through the tunnels underneath. Lee tunes in, catching everything as the thing breaks down the plan. His goal's pretty clear, he's got to keep those creatures from making it over the ravine. He wants to know what kind of monsters they're dealing with, and the goblin lets it slip, they're up against gargoyles. When he heard that, sitting at level 220, he was locked in and paying full attention. Earlier that day, Lee had already taken down 3, so he remembered exactly what went down. He stared at the goblin, basically letting it know there was no point trying to fake anything around him. He starts to walk off, but the goblin calls out, wondering if he's actually by himself. Lee gives the go-ahead, and right after, the system lets everyone know the mission is officially on. He had just 3 hours to make it through, if not, that was it for him. Lee drops straight into the ravine while the goblin just stands up top, grinning like he knows he's got the upper hand. He's totally sure he's not making it out alive. Out of nowhere, a bunch of gargoyles shows up. He started messing with gravity control, then hit paralyze and petrify right after. Lee slips past every attack they throw and takes them out like it's nothing. He uses his blood powers to take all their blood, and just like that, he levels up again. He barely gets a chance to breathe before another round hits. He doesn't get scared, he just grins, ready for whatever comes next. Up on the ledge, the red goblin tries to get to back off, but she stands her ground. She lets him know she's a player just like he is and isn't going anywhere. She tunes out whatever the thing is saying and just drops down next to Lee. He wonders why she tagged along, and she just says she had a weird vibe about things. He checks on and she lets him know waited outside. When she shows up, his skills level up fast because the mana around him gets way more focused. He made the dungeon easier to get through. Lee glances around, totally thrown off, as the gargoyles glitch and switch into goblins right in front of him. He just loses it and slams his fist into the ground. He took them out right away. He starts to notice that someone's messing with the dungeon, pushing him to see how far he can go. Hyla spots that he looks tense, but when she tries to check in, he just shrugs it off like nothing's up. She steps up and says she'll handle the red goblin herself. Lee just nods to himself, finally getting that she's always had his back, almost like they were on the same team way before this, maybe even in another life. Later on, Lee runs into the red goblin again. This time he grabs its head and doesn't let go. It was shaking, saying it was just doing what it was told. Lee's voice goes cold and he wants answers about who called the shots. You can tell he's completely out of patience now. Lee stands there taking in the red goblin's desperate plea for mercy. The goblin tries to bargain, saying he'll spill everything if Lee lets him off. The story says their god is running the game channel. Lee isn't really buying it and wonders if it's actually a god or just someone pretending. The goblin keeps saying it's legit, acting like it sees everything going on in the game. Lee just grinned and threw up his middle finger, pretty sure the god was watching him the whole time. The goblin explains that the god had to step in because Lee messed up the balance of the game. Lee scowled, thinking about how everyone else was the reason he turned out like this. The goblin tries to play dumb, saying it just bumped up the dungeon's difficulty because someone told it to when Lee showed up. Lee lets out a sigh, feeling let down, and then just finishes it off by smashing its skull. Hyla steps up, ready to go, and lets everyone know he's got a shot at meeting the god in the last dungeon. Lee checks her out, kind of interested. She tells him that the god is actually the one who built the whole game from scratch. Lee gets a pop-up telling him he just finished the level 3 special dungeon, and now he's 3,000 bonus points. Lee looks over and wonders if they're really about to go up against that god. Hyla just gives a nod, confirming it's actually happening. He starts thinking about whether the god could actually be human, but she just straight up says she's never seen it before. He tries to find out who her killer was, and she drops the name Park. When Lee hears the name, he tells her not to move. He turns on Eye of Reversal so he can check out her memories. Whenever she thinks back, is right there in front of her, throwing shade and making her feel small now that Lee isn't around. He calls her witch and totally shuts down her moves. He catches her as she's going down, stabbing her before she can even try to warn Lee. Lee locks the vision in place, wanting to know what she was trying to say to him back then. He looks over and nods, already catching on to what's happening. She finally let it slip that had this sword moved strong enough to get through his armor, but honestly she had no clue how he pulled it off. Right as Lee's about to ask another question, a warning pops up on the screen. The system says there's only 3 minutes left before the gate shuts. Outside pulls up her status window and just stares, not really believing what she's seeing. The points actually showed up and it hits her, they're legit. Lee puts all his bonus points into strength. He pushed it past $21,000. Min leans over, trying to steady himself as the room starts spinning. Points out that their stats might actually be messing with how their bodies work. Lee wanted to see what he could really do, so he powered up, turned on his armor, and slammed his fist down onto the ground. The ground took a serious hit, leaving a massive dent. Right after that, a pop-up showed up, his armor just leveled up to 3, and now he's got the final blow unlocked. He's got this wild ability that sucks up extra energy and blasts it back out, but it drains almost all of his health to use it. Totally freaks out, trying to get him to chill before everything around them gets wrecked. Lee checks out the skill and thinks it's pretty pointless, unless he runs into someone who can actually put up a real fight. Word started getting around pretty fast. Some player just broke past 1,000 stat points in less than a month. People online are saying things aren't the same anymore, and everyone's gotta switch up how they do things. Lee scrolls through the headlines, can't help but laugh a little, and hopes that some real tough players are about to show up. Every time these special gates showed up around the world, players started leveling up way quicker and chasing after even crazier monsters. Lee watched what was happening and figured it was time to chill on his dungeon runs for a bit, giving the others a chance to catch up. As they level up quicker, the world keeps changing, and his rewards just keep getting better. He can't get Park out of his head. Lee stood in front of the statues, checking them out. Couldn't help but laugh when she spotted Lee's statue flipping everyone off. He thought the whole thing was just straight up nonsense. Lee spots Park's statue and can't help but notice it's way smaller than he expected, plus it's covered in graffiti. It was still exactly the same as the day it was first put together, nothing ever changed. Lee hits up the president, pretty much ranting about how the statues in Square are just not it. He thinks his statue shouldn't be up there since he hasn't done anything wild like Admiral Yi Sun Sin or King. The president points out that he really did save everyone. Lee keeps saying he only did it for himself, which just makes the statue even more awkward for everyone. Everyone heard the president say the whole country voted for it and called Lee a hero, but Lee wasn't having it, he still wanted it gone. The president gives in, not really wanting to, and Lee brings up the idea of taking down Park's statue. Before the president even gets a chance to react, Lee steps up and just wrecks it. He points out that everything's going down live online, so can't hide anything. Once people see this, his hero reputation is toast, and there's no way he can keep pretending to be someone he's not. He tells the president to put his statue right in front of his place instead. The Blue House wastes no time and pushes the footage out across the whole country. Everyone's buzzing, trying to figure out why isn't saying anything. People still remember how strong he used to be, but these days, he's just not around. Points out that actually started playing just 5 years before the final dungeon showed up. He climbed the ranks fast, getting noticed way quicker than anyone expected. Most people think you've got to find a gate or grab mana from monsters to become a player. Lee notices that still hasn't woken up in this timeline. Thinks this is actually some solid news, and Lee's totally on board with him. Has to take on some tough monsters if he wants a shot at being a player again. While he's busy fighting, Lee finally gets a chance to get ready. When finally wakes up, Lee's already made up his mind. He's either taking out right then or making sure everyone knows he's a traitor. He had no choice but to lay low for a while. Lee hit up the president again, pushing him to drop an article that made look like the ultimate villain. He's trying to keep it all together, acting like the hero. Still, he knows definitely won't let that slide. Somewhere else, a red goblin was jamming stat stones down a gargoyle's throat, hyping it up with the promise of enough power to take Lee out. He thinks about holding on to a little for himself, but in the end, he knows the gargoyle's his only real shot. If this thing takes Lee out, all the other monsters will start following it. At the same time, while other players kept smashing through gates, Lee got some extra help without even asking. He's just hanging around, watching for that level 51 gate to pop up in Korea, since that's where he can finally snag the assassin class skill. Do tells him to chill for a bit and Min is down. Suddenly he gets a pop-up from the system. Lee just heard that what he's doing is seriously messing with the future. He leans back, totally confused, trying to process what that even means. Wanted to know what was going on, so he let her know that a new level 200 monster was about to show up soon. Out of nowhere, a gate swings open. There was this level 51 gate with silver armor, and the place was packed with players. This one's marked as an A-rank challenge. Halo lets everyone know they can't chill right now, there's no time to waste. Lee just gives a confident smirk, looking like he's totally sure they're about to knock out 2 wins today. He seems like he's got it all planned and isn't worried at all. Out of nowhere, this gargoyle-looking creature shows up, and just like that, the fight kicks off. The monster slams down hard, making the whole ground shake. Lee doesn't waste a second, his armor snaps on and he just goes for it. The creature lets out a deep growl, sounding hungry and ready to move. Both his arms get stuck, locked tight by its hold. Lee jerks back for a second, then switches on the Eye of God. The scan shows the monster's level 230. Its stats are way higher than anything normal. He looks over at And, wanting to know what numbers they're supposed to use. Hyla tells him to keep it under 3,000. Min jumps in, telling him not to mess around and just get it done fast, since waiting too long only brings bad luck. Lee just stares at the screen, barely believing what he's seeing, over 20,000 total stats. Hyla just stands there totally stuck, staring at the number. His brain just blanks out for a second. Lee grabs the monster by the neck and drives its face straight into the ground. But then it pops back up. He goes for Petrify. The effect barely sticks around for 3 seconds before it falls apart. Lee starts to notice that his skill just isn't cutting it against those crazy high stats. The gargoyle charges in and hits hard. Lee slips out of the way just as clocks what's happening. He's seen this move before, but it's never hit this hard. Hyla picks up on the insane amount of mana in the area and lets Lee know he needs to stay sharp. Lee grabs his head again. He keeps smashing it over and over until the whole thing finally gives way. He hits a few level-ups back to back and takes a second to catch his breath. Lee started thinking about whether the creature had soaked up some stat runes. Min remembers they jumped into the gate right away, so there's no way anyone else messed with it before them. Lee nods, starting to notice that things are getting weird again. Couldn't believe what he was seeing. He started trying to figure out how a level 230 monster could seriously have more than 20,000 stats. She wants to know what Lee's real source of power is, and wonders if he's actually the guy behind those weird gates popping up everywhere. Lee owns up to it. He's the one who sets off the gates, but he's not the guy making them. While they're talking, Lee pulls out his dagger and slices into the monster's body. He steps inside and spots a bunch of stat stones just sitting there. Pulls back surprised while Lee just cracks up. He suddenly gets what's going on. He decides to check it out for real and gives food to one of the animals. He tossed a rock straight at the monster in the silver armor. He checks it out one more time, using the Eye of God to really see what's up. He notices a stat rune sitting there and suddenly everything makes sense. Lee just grinned, tossing some shade at the red goblin. He knows right away who's pulling the strings.